Welcome, everybody, into your regularly scheduled Thursday night programming here on Titan Esports as we feature the Immortal League and the regular season that's coming down to a close. Week 6 of 7, folks. We have playoffs right around the corner, and we have a matchup indicative of that very just the setting that we have here. It's Group A matchup tonight, and we are going to be getting the Lane 0 Maelstrom side taking on Dorado Gaming Zeta. And I'm excited for that, but I'm more excited that I'm next to the Duck aficionado himself, Quacks, who was really getting hyped before our we went live here. Quacks, it's good to be alongside you again, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to be back with you, Slayer, here on the Titan Immortal League. And yeah, you could not have put it any more eloquently. We're getting down there in the regular season, and this is a do or die series, particularly for LZM. They are currently 2-3, and with 2 more weeks left, what happens this week and what happens next week? They're gonna have to go all out, and they're gonna probably have to win both of those series in order to crack that top 4 and get toward that playoff spot. So we are definitely looking at a lot of them to just pull out all the stops, right? Play what works. And you're kind of coming into this new patch where, you've got the lane swap stuff, right? You've got the Skarner nerfs. You've got a ton of changes to a lot of really strong champions and a lot of really strong strategies that have stood the test of time for this entire season, potentially even further back. So if LCM wanted to pull out something different and have, kind of catch Dorado Gaming Zeta by surprise, not necessarily having that practice against a lot of the new patch strategies, this would be the time to do it. So I'm looking for that creativity, I'm looking for that innovation, and I'm looking for them to go all out because they're going to have to if they want to keep their playoff chances alive here in the Immortal League.
And Quacks, to continue pushing this idea for Lane0 Maelstrom, to inform all you at home, the standings, it's not as readily accessible at home as it is for us here, obviously on the broadcast. But Team Coconuts are the team that they're really competing with, right? They're the team that's in the 4th spot. They're into playoffs right now to Group A. They are only there because they have won one extra match where Lane0 Maelstrom has lost one extra match. So they have the same series record, but it's that game difference that's separating them. And what's going to be fun to track, Quacks, yeah, right? And then what's going to be fun to track is that Team Coconuts tonight have to play Summit Esports Wawas, the top team in the group. So 5 is playing 2 live on stream tonight in Group A, and then 1 is playing 4 off stream. Those 2 matches not only are really going to decide how the bottom of Group A looks, but also the top with how close Dorado Gaming Zeta and Summit Esports Wawas really are.
Yeah, I mean, similar to the bottom of the standings, the top of the standings is separated by games, right? It's not separated by series difference. And so I do think that, a win here for Zeta as well would be, kind of reassuring everyone that they are the top of Group A, that they are going to be going into that last week of the regular season and, tangentially playoffs with a level head and with just all of the stops ready to be pulled out. And I wouldn't expect anything different from an organization like Dorado. They are famously clutch when it comes to, at the very least, making playoffs. I honestly can't remember a time where a Dorado Gaming team didn't make a playoffs in any of the orgs or, sort of tournaments similar to Titan that I have casted. So it would be, kind of unheard of, I feel, to see this team not at the very least at the top. And we're getting down there, so this is their time to become clutch, as we are seing half of Ivern, half of Jarvan, and half of
they're hiding. They're hiding.
They're in the bushes.
Maybe they woke up on the wrong side of the bed, or like maybe they got a booger.
They're under the covers.
They don't want to show their face
under the bed when you're like 8 years old and you don't want them to you don't want the monster to see you.
Yeah, that's
true. You want to see him. Yeah.
You know what's funny about that is, like, when I was a kid, I did it for that reason too, but I also, whenever I was cold, I would go under the covers and just like breathe really fast over and over again to like create like a heat pocket. And then I'd realize that it's way too hot and come back up. Anyways.
Yeah. I feel that in my bones. Kind of the opposite though, because I live in Minnesota, so we get cold really, really easily. But as you can see, I mean, basically we've got 4.5 jungle bans here, right? Darius jungle, notably banned. So yeah, three jungle bans coming through here from Dorado, really putting a lot of respect onto Nastallion and just what his champ pool could be capable of. And the AD carry is going to be heavily prioritized in the first couple of picks here, Slayer.
Yep, so get the marksman out of the way on both sides here, Ashe and Varus. A very traded bottom lane matchup I see a lot here, with the fact that they both have the sort of setup in their kit as well, but also have the ability to sort of go on hit route. So that's always fun to watch. I am not happy about the next pick here from Lane0 Maelstrom. That is 1,000% going to be this stupid Shirelius Cho'Gath that it's terrorizing the Rift.
To put a little bit of a band-aid on this wound that you have now suffered mentally, Slayer, this Cho'Gath did get nerfed pretty heavily in this patch. He got a nerf to his Q, his W, and his E. So hit very, very heavily because Riot said, yeah, this Shirelia's, this symbiotic souls thing that's going on with Cho'Gath, it's not working out. This is not healthy for the game. So I'm actually thankful for that, because I've seen a couple instances where that is just, it's really interactive, Slayer, to put it mildly.
Yeah, very, very interactive. We see second phase of bans coming through here, though. Hui, Karma going to be taken away. Supports on either side have not yet been selected, so have mid laners. And we are missing a ton of AP threats in both of those roles. We've got bruisers, we've got tanks, we've got marksmen. We do not have any main magic dealers, so got to see exactly what Griffin and John especially want to lean in towards, because your champ pool is already limited by the fact, hey, we moved the draft up. There we go. That's
there we go. Now they're back from under the covers. They're sleeping peacefully.
What control mages are you looking for here? Because there has to be control mages coming out.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Hui Orianna got nerfed to the ground. I mean, maybe they're gonna say, screw it. You know, even though Cho'Gath got nerfed, we just put him in the mid lane. That could be a possibility. And Cho does deal a decent amount of magic damage, right? And so Dorado Gaming, Zeta, though, have a different idea. They're saying, all right, Feast, Chains of Corruption, Curse of the Sad Mummy, it's a Silas angle. This is one of the only thing that could have made it better is if the LZM locked in like an Alistar or something.
Yeah, just to send over top. That's a possibility. If you really want to go for the Alistar. It's actually not a terrible Alistar game to play either. This is a comp that's going to try flying onto your Varus, so protecting him is definitely job number one, and they're going to go with arguably the best person at protection. So the Braum does sneak through. Brash grabs that. Now, Quacks, we get to look at these comps holistically. Tell me what's going through your mind. Ease execution. How do these teams come out with wins?
I really think that we're going to have to be looking at that bot lane in particular, Slayer. I mean, particularly Bondi and Joker have been kind of the big power points for both of these teams, right? We've seen a lot of play around those lanes, and I think we'll probably expect to see a little bit less when you have things like an Ashe Leona, which is capable of weak siding, but is very good. Is very reliable when it comes to having someone like a Wukong, right? You've got a ton of innate lockdown. You've got a lot of that engage. So being able to give kills over to the Wukong is all but guaranteed if you go to the bot lane. So maybe we won't see Joker kind of reap the rewards of that attention, but I do expect we'll see a lot of attention down there regardless. On the other side, though, it's all the kills over to Bondi, right? You're making sure top lane is scaling. You're making sure jungle isn't falling behind. This Varus getting ahead is the key to winning this game. And I think lane 0 Maelstrom understand that as well.
Understanding and executing are two very different worlds. We're on to Summoner's Rift already with lane 0 Maelstrom getting a pretty good invade in here. Reminder, as Quack said at the top of the show, this is the first patch. This is the first Immortal series on the newest patch. So if you've been watching a ton of LPL, you've been watching, even qualifiers in NA, you've seen people invade, then set up lane swaps. That is not the reality anymore. You are going to see your classic 2v2 lanes. And as a bot lane player, breath of fresh air, because I felt like my game knowledge was best understood, Quacks, with bottom lane 2v2 matchups, and I just didn't get to pull on any of that for 6 months. So
yeah,
I'm glad to be back.
It's back now. Yep. It's back now. You can flex on me, the Colorcaster, the guy who's supposed to bring the knowledge. You can one-up me from time to time. But yeah, I mean, just a lot of focusing on the bot lane 2v2. Mid laners likely going to try and pay some attention to that as well. Again, we saw some nerfs to the Cho'Gath in 3 abilities, most notably toward that damage. One of the biggest issues with Cho mid was being able to shove that wave out instantly and then being able to roam with your symbiotic souls. So clearing that wave as quickly on Cho'Gath will not be as easy because of the damage nerfs that he got hit by, but it will mean that, later down the line, once he gets some items, he should be able to still roam around and influence that bot lane. So that's something that Dorado Gaming Zeta have to be aware of and have to be willing to respond to when the time comes.
Curious to watch if Dorado Gaming decide to lean maybe towards, I would figure towards a top side approach here in the early game. Jim Cantore, a player that I've actually gotten to watch for, at this point, over a year.
It's been a while.
Gaming rosters, right? But pathing up bot to top, Quacks. I like this. The Gangplank, weakest form is going to be in this early phase, and Arthur is also just going to be the main scaling threat with this being a lethality Varus and that Cho'Gath getting nerfed in the mid lane. So if I'm Dorado Gaming, goal number 1 here is not necessarily to get Void ahead, but to put Arthur behind for the later stages of the game.
And it seems like he's aware that he might get focused down in this early game. I mean, most Gangplanks do, after all. Void wins that barrel trade there. 1v1, he's the first to get the auto. Yeah, that's a point of pride for a lot of Gangplank mains. Just watch any Solar Baka stream. But yeah, I mean, getting Arthur behind is definitely going to be a goal of Dorado Gaming Zetas. And so you can see this gangplank stacking up on those cookies, having that grass, making sure that the in-lane sustain is all there so that he can take the harass from the Ambessa. And if any play does come through from Jim Cantor, he'll have the health to survive it and will also have that ability to flash away if need be.
Here we go, though. Bottom lane's brawling the most. That's what we like to see in the new iteration of League of Legends so far. And right now, Joker definitely a bit more worse for wear as junglers begin to clean out their camps for the first time here. It is a quicker clear for Jim Cantor. He's already onto that first scuttle, as Arthur is also taking some rough trades on this top side. So these lanes so far are going exactly how you expect them, but you're just waiting on the junglers to make that effect. And Jim Cantor,
Here we go.
he might be teeing up a dive. Wait, can you? This is. Oh, it's almost 4 minutes.
Oh boy, yeah. I mean, it's almost 4 minutes. They got to get the timing right, but the timing isn't there because the void is, or rather, the wave isn't there. So Jim might try to look to cancel it. Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Those turrets pack a punch, my friend. I don't know if they want to go for this now. I mean, they're both half HP. Arthur has 2 cookies and a pot. So yeah, the risk it seems is not worth the reward, and you can see. NA Stallion is already on the bot side. He's already reset. Look at this tempo advantage.
Here comes the NA Stallion, rumbling on in. When will he throw a bandage toss? Brash is holding the turret arrow for a while. It is going to drop. It's going to be a trade kill, and the Leona's far too tanky. The turret's doing all the work right now for lane 0 Maelstrom. Stallion's going to be the last one to survive, but that is not how they drew up that dive at all.
Yeah, they wanted to try and see if they could get a quick one and then get out, but it ends up being 2 kills over to Dorado Gaming Zeta. And the wave also not in too bad of a position either for DOGZ. Sure, Joker is going to go back to lane not having the flash, but Hoshiumi has that flash available, will be able to at the very least get onto the Varus and potentially at worst will give his life to allow his AD carry to escape. But all things considered, as you said, it is certainly not the ideal play coming out here for lane 0 Maelstrom.
Good start for the Zeta side so far as they look for a play on to Brash, who just dropped to the turret. Great setup from John to put a good spot for the Leona in, but Brash is going to be able to jump back to his teammate. Doesn't actually have to burn Flash, but does give bottom side river control over to Dorado Gaming for the time being.
And just allows Jim Cantor to cross over mid. They actually got vision of NA Stallion looking to see if he could help his teammates. So you can see Jim Cantor has the ability now with mid priority to make an aggressive play. He's going to drop a ward down. He's got a level advantage as well. So if he wants to use that to fight NA Stallion, he certainly can do so. John has 6 as well. So he has the ability to hijack that. So just good map movements overall from the mid-jungle duo of Dorado Gaming Zeta, making aggressive plays, utilizing that priority, and most importantly now, they're going to transition it into an objective potentially.
Brash is back on the map though, also trying to set up some river vision. And Jim Cantor is going to have to relent off of these grubs. The NA Stallion himself is going to start them up on the Amumu, and they have Griffin with first roam. They're going to swing Arthur over as well, so big commit from lane 0 just to make sure the grubs are all going to go their way. So despite the blown dive, they will set themselves up for monster slaying feats one step further forward than Dorado Gaming.
And I mean, this is actually really big, right? It allows for, you know, some of those scaling elements in LZM's comp to really get the ball rolling. His hold on Bondi.
Hoshiumi flies in with a Hex Flash, gets the Zenith Blade stun lockdown. There is no Ash Arrow for Joker, so they got to use all their damage now.
Oh, the turret!
I'll need to flash back away, but the turret continues to shine. There are 4 kills on the map right now, and all of them should be going to the turrets.
Nobody is respecting the tower, but it's not really a turret anymore. It's more like a cannon. And it is just blowing away every member, not of one specific team, but every member of this game. Yeah, like you said, Slayer, literally every kill, the turret has been a factor in them. So that is really opening up a lot of doors for both of these teams. And I mean, it kind of hurts to watch. I can't lie to you. As now John is going to try and maybe be the first kill, not going to try and get a kill, not influenced by the turret. Here we go.
4v2 for Dorado Gaming Zeta. They have Jim Cantor in the background, and Brash is going to be the one to survive. But he has to sacrifice his AD carry, Brandy, or Bondi, excuse me. That's feats of warfare, by the way, and nearly all of it was earned by the turret once more. I'm going to keep punching that home because we should track it. How many kills do the turrets get in this game? Because right now they're 4 for 5.
Yeah, so it's turret, you know, not assisting in that kill, but now it's going to be Dorado Gaming Zeta assisting in taking down this dragon. And with the numbers disadvantage here for lane 0 Maelstrom, there's not a ton they can do. They had a brief moment of priority, and now Griffin is roaming, so maybe they're late to it, but they're going to try anyway.
The NA Stallion lands a 3-man curse of the Sad Mummy into the Griffin knockup. Going to devour home the Leona as well. Cyclone only going to save Jim Cantori, but John's far too up as well. Has to flash over the Dragon Pit wall. The ultimates chaining together, and Griffin's looking for more here. Gets the knockup. How does that get the kill? Are we sure we nerfed this Shogath?
Yeah, Rupture nerf. Who? That's another kill going over to Griffin. He also got that Beast proc off, so this Shogath is 3-0 now, Slayer.
Bro, he has an Aether Wisp.
Damned.
He has an Aether Wisp, and that's it. Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah, he's now 700 gold above John.
Oh,
An absolute disaster class there coming out from Dorado Gaming Zeta. Now that Ceruleus is going to be complete 9 minutes into the game. The symbiotic souls are acquired for the Cho'Gath. It's like the champion never left its powerhouse, Slayer.
Nope, not at all. Griffin's going to be able to really just single out whoever he wants on Dorado Gaming Zeta and blow them up with a pretty big devour. And that's really problematic, Quacks, because DOG's comp is completely comprised of melee champions outside this Ashe, so it's going to be pretty easy for Griffin to kill off whoever he wants to because DOG have to go in to win this game.
Pretty much, and that is a dangerous game, not just because of the Cho'Gath, right, but because of the Amumu. We saw what happened when they were grouped up, when they weren't able to, utilize any range, because they didn't have any range. The Amumu got on top of them, got that 3-man curse of the Sad Mummy, and they were completely left out to dry. And that ultimate, it's going to just prove to be super problematic as the game goes on. And the next time we'll probably see it used is in this Grub exchange coming up in a little less than a minute. You can see that ultimate from the Amumu coming off of cooldown. NA Stallion is on the top side. Arthur is going for the reset. He's going to acquire that Phage. And the Cho'Gath, who is 3-0 still, mind you, will be ready and waiting to go. And I do wonder if maybe lane 0 Maelstrom just want to try and get one out, utilize that Beast to get an ult proc off for Griffin and potentially dip, but that would require them getting control of the topside river, and they don't currently have that, Slayer.
Nope, that is Dorado Gaming that are going to jump the waiting in the brush Amumu. Then a Stallion just got packed out to the glue factory, and it's going to release a lot more grubs to the side of Zeta.
Yeah, and I mean, this is not only a huge win coming out for Dorado Gaming Zeta, but it's also a quick denial there for lane 0 Maelstrom, right? Because we're really looking at this this gangplank in order to get a lot of that gold, try and get a lot of those turrets, and just get as many places he can before that 14-minute mark. And so far, he's only been able to get one, but I suppose the thing making up for it is he has been really ahead of Void in CS basically this entire game. So this gangplank, despite not having, the 4 grubs or, potentially more, is still getting a ton of innate gold on this top side. And so I really want to see if Dorado Gaming Zeta can at least put a dent in this gangplank before he gets out of control.
A good call out, Quacks. He survived the weakest part of gangplank for sure. By this point
now he's got the Sheen.
He's got the Sheen. The Triforce is really not that far behind, and he will have level 2 ultimate available pretty soon here to drop cannon fodder on whoever he wants. So maybe for lane 0 Maelstrom, who are trying to grab themselves that feats of monster slaying, might just look to see them really overload towards this bottom side going forward. The next Drake coming in about a minute 30. And they are on the more powerful spike, not only with Griffin's lead, but just the nature of some of their other champions, right? The Bondi Varus is going to start spiking now with those cheaper lethality items.
Yeah. So he's got that Youmu's. You can see Arthur also has that Triforce. Big item spikes coming through from the big carries of lane 0 Maelstrom around a minute until the dragon spawns. So I expect them to make a play over there. But, kind of going back to that top side, it's been really hard, I feel, for Void to actually kind of get these trades in his own favor, because a lot of one big interaction that not a ton of people know about Gangplank is his barrels essentially store Sheen procs, Slayer. So if you put down a barrel while your Sheen is off of cooldown and you explode it when you're even if your Sheen is off cooldown, it still goes through. So you can essentially get 2 Sheen procs, right? And that can really help you with trading, especially against these dueling champions like the Ambessa. It really helps just get that last little tick of damage and makes it super difficult for them to re-engage you because they're down HP.
Professor Quack's out here schooling all you viewers.
I learned that from Solar Baka. I
this...
shout him out. He taught that one to Baus on Synapse, and I caught it, and I was like, I'm using this for broadcast.
There you go. Do the homework and reap the rewards there, Quacks. That's the motto that Lane Zero and Maelstrom are trying to follow here for taking a dragon that they need a lot. You can see they're tunneling on these bottom waves to shove them in and try to get as much vision as they can around this pit. John does get away from that rupture.
Is.
He gets away from the rupture, but John is back over the wall. Bottom lane control has been given over back towards Dorado Gaming. The Astro's going to find Bondi, who has to use the cleanse, and now NA Stallion having to use the Curse of the Sad Mode defensively. Cannon Barrage coming over top, but there's not enough damage to find the trade. It's going to have to be Griffin stepping up and devouring the jungler of Dorado Gaming Zeta. Jim Cantore and NA Stallion are down, and now this dragon becomes a lot more coin flippy than anyone ever advertised for it. Who's going to find it? A barrel, a piercing arrow. It's the latter. Picked up by Bondi. Monster
White on the side.
Down for Lane Zero Maelstrom, but they've got to get out now. Rolling execution comes across, and it's going to be Void flying into the entire mass of Lane Zero Maelstrom and coming out with nobody.
And they get out without a hitch. Only NA Stallion falling in that exchange. What a heist there. And what a good example of snap decision-making coming out from Lane Zero Maelstrom. They immediately get their eyes onto Jim Cantor. They get out their pitchforks. They take down the jungler of Dorado Gaming. They go on. They understand as well that they've got things like the Varus arrow, right? They've got things that can really kind of function as these executes to take down this dragon. And now NA Stallion wants to execute the Joker.
Oh, okay. Dodges the bandage toss. The Joker's going to get out. Not messing around, but if you're the Amumu, you might take the trade of getting flash off an 80 carry for yours.
Oh, absolutely. But it'll be a bit of a feels bad moment here for NA Stallion because you can see Jim Cantor is just going to try and take away some of these camps. At the very least, he's going to gain control of this top side and make it a little bit more difficult for NA Stallion or anyone on Lane Zero Maelstrom to come up from that side of the jungle and potentially help out the top lane. But, I mean, Arthur doesn't really need any help at this point, right? Like you said, he survived the hardest part of the game, and now it's up to him to be this late game carry.
Oh, let's see the bottom lane for Dorado Gaming. They don't want to give up first turret here. The Astro hits with Brash under turret. They get the root back with the Chains of Corruption, but Bondi's going to go down. Joker and company stand up tall, and they stop Lane Zero Maelstrom from grabbing themselves feats of strength.
I mean, at that point, I feel like if you're Lane Zero Maelstrom, you just say, screw it, we're not getting out. Let's just try and get the turret. But it ends up being just literally 1 HP. They're not able to finish that one off. Luckily, though, it looks like Dorado Gaming Zeta's bot lane understand that Stallion is on the bot side of the map and don't want to mess with a potential Amumu getting on top of them and throwing them into the trash.
Jim Cantore has just owned this top side.
Yeah.
Took the chickens, now gets away with the red buff. So this is a Wukong on, I mean, I've got a jungler expert here. It was 3 camp lead going on? 2.5? I don't know the math on those. Oh, hold on.
Yeah,
I see Griffin popping Shirelias and running in with the symbiotic souls. The cannon barrage is going to slow him down. We have live car noises to back up Griffin's speed, and he's going to devour down. This is a 5-0 Cho'Gath with Shirelias, and they're going to get the turret off the back end of this, so they're going to stun up Hashiumi. They're going to find first turret, a 5-0 Cho'Gath, and another kill. Lane Zero Maelstrom have come to play today.
You know, maybe in hindsight, they shouldn't have taken that bot lane turret when I suggested it. As now NA Stallion tries to do the same thing, hides under his turret, and goes down. So it's a trade for turrets, but notably, one is closer to that Rift Herald than the other, and you can kind of see Dorado Gaming Zeta, the mid-jungle combo, along with Void, are maybe looking to make a play on that side of the map that, like you said earlier, Slayer, they have owned for a sizable amount of time at this point.
Jim Cantore does have to take that reset off of his low health bar, which does allow Griffin's fast-moving Cho'Gath to get all the way down here into the river, start setting up vision control. Bot wave is pushing in their favor, so Lane Zero Maelstrom definitely can try and set up camp in this top side if they'd like. 5 strong, which isn't the same thing isn't really afforded to Dorado Gaming Zeta. So, well, as I say that, they just give up river control, so never mind.
And they're going to try and, it looks like, get control over other sides of the map. I mean, you can see Griffin is on that bot side. If they want to respond to this Herald, the Cho'Gath does have teleport, but yeah, they're posturing as if they're not really up to fight for this. They don't have the Curse of the Sad Mummy. They don't have the Devourer. They don't have these key ultimates to be able to really win these team fights. And so I feel like this is a really good moment for kind of lane 0 Maelstrom to say, okay, we don't have our powerful ultimates. We don't have our powerful abilities and our spells and kind of everyone together. So let's give this one up. We still have 2 dragons and we're taking control of the bot side right here. You can see all the vision being placed down. As long as they can hold this mid lane wave, they should be able to have Dorado Gaming Zeta on the back foot in terms of knowledge and gathering information for this next objective.
Are you in your garage with your knowledge in a Lamborghini, perchance, Quacks? Is that meme too old for you to pick up on?
I think it is.
Pray.
I don't really know what you just said.
I'm here in my garage with my Lamborghini. You never saw that video? All right, you know what? We don't have time because there's a hijack Curse of the Sad Mummy getting thrown right in NA Stallion's face. John goes unstoppable, quietly piloting a pretty big lead for Dorado Gaming Zeta, and it will allow them to actually stop the Dragon Stack. And that was a valuable single pick to find, Quacks.
I mean, you just kind of hit the nail on the head there. I mean, John has quietly been building up a 5-0 kill line as this Silas, and we talked about how good this comp is for a champion like Silas, how many ultimates he'll be able to hijack for these team fights, but so far, we haven't seen a ton of team fights here, Slayer. It feels like NA Stallion in particular has been getting caught out a lot, and so with that Curse of the Sad Mummy being gone, lane 0 Maelstrom hasn't had a lot of opportunities to regroup and really try to look for any of those team fights that their comp wants to go for. Is now Griffin. You're going to have to speed on away, my friend.
He's getting knocked up by a Cyclone. Second bout, set up the public execution.
Ooh.
They're going to go all in for Griffin, but he's far too tanky. He
nom.
burns the Devourer to get Jim Cantori very low. He's going to hop in the Rift Herald. Griffin goes down. Jim Cantori's up, and now Joker and company are here. It's the turn for Dorado Gaming Zeta. They finally knock down the raid boss and pick a second one up on the back end.
And Ruinous Otacon right on cue, coming up on the bot side. Dorado Gaming Zeta. The question is, do they want to immediately rip it? Yeah, Jim Cantor's health bar little too low for comfort, so they're gonna buy their time. They've still got control of the bot side. You can see that wave pushing. It actually just straight up gets dropped by Bondi, so that priority for Dorado Gaming Zeta will remain for the time being, and they'll be able to respond to this mid lane push. They've still got control of the map, and come next time a pick comes through for Zeta, they should be able to look for that new bot side neutral.
Oh, another arrow landing on a Brash. It's deja vu from the last time they were trying to take a turret in front of Joker. He's going to land a volley slow. Jim Cantori, though, does not have Cyclone. Still going to hop forward and force the chain disruption and flash out of Brash. So key abilities and Summoner is something you've been focusing on, Quacks, for this LZM team when they fight. Going to be down for the next couple of minutes.
Yeah, they still don't have the Curse of the Sad Mummy. They don't have the Chains of Corruption. Brash is down a flash. And overall, those tools that you need in order to win the game, to workshop it in your favor, they just are not there. And so now, really, the ball is in Dorado Gaming Zeta's court. What do they want to do? You can see the reset coming through from Hoshiumi. Void does not have teleport, and I imagine they're going to want this Ambessa on the bot side of the map. So maybe the top lane turret is what they are after before they transition anything toward that Otacon.
Good call out with Arthur's TP advantage. It's actually just a full-blown teleport advantage right now for lane 0 Maelstrom. So we'll see how well they can utilize that to play the map. They've only got a couple of minute window to do so. We were definitely waiting on Arthur to start having that gangplank impact. He's really just been Cannon Barrage City these last couple of minutes. And as I say that, he might get ganked and shut down. Cyclone into public execution. No angle for Arthur to get out. That's a shutdown on a killless gangplank. The question now becomes, what can lane 0 Maelstrom get off on the back end? Griffin is teleported in. Here comes the speed up with the Sorelias, forces Void to flash out, dash himself to safety, and a good use for the Trickster is going to keep Dorado Gaming Zeta's top side safe. And look what's brewing in the mid lane on the back end.
Yeah, really good disengage them, being able to get out there. It opens up that door in the mid lane, like you mentioned, Slayer. They should be able to get this turret with those grubs in hand, and then they're going to immediately rotate toward this bot side, re-establish vision where the Otacon is shut down. Lane Zero Maelstrom's ability to gain knowledge on that side of the map. And now Void's TP is starting to come off cooldown, so this Ambessa should be able to join up in the fight after pushing this wave. It is just a masterclass coming through here in this mid game on how to play the map, how to rotate, because it really feels like Lane Zero Maelstrom are constantly chasing Dorado Gaming Zeta across, but they are too late to react, they're too late to respond, and the proactivity is really starting to pay dividends here for this blue side.
I'm glad you called that out, Quacks, because it did really feel like Dorado Gaming Zeta got punched in the mouth, trying to be a little bit too aggressive early.
I don't know if I go that far.
Into this Amumu and this Cho'Gath. Gave up some gold, but since then, they've really neutralized the team fight ability of Lane Zero Maelstrom, and you'd like to see them get back to that. Luckily for them, the nature of League this late into the game, you're going to have a Baron and an Otacon and pretty important dragons to play around that naturally force those team fights that you want if you're LZM.
And, you know, naturally in League of Legends, Otacon is like the biggest throw objective of all time. Any team that goes for it disrespectfully is bound to get punished. As
who are they looking for?
Looking to get
they're looking for John. And they've got him caught in front of Otacon. There's the curse of the Sad Mummy. John is dead. The big bad Silas shut down.
Is this their moment?
They're trying for it with the Otacon. They have the man advantage. They watch Void fly in way too high up in the lane, and he's just going to have to run all the way back towards mid in his team. He is starting to distract Lane Zero Maelstrom, and maybe this is a little bit of a bait-and-catch situation because he's actually pulled them off of Otacon with that teleport.
Yeah, you can see now Dorado Gaming Zeta playing that map once again. They're pushing out this mid wave. They're choking out these angles for Lane Zero Meta to really approach them at. NA Stallion doesn't have the ultimate, doesn't have that Curse of the Sad Mummy, but you can see they don't seem to really care. They've got the numbers advantage. They have to make use of it. Whatever they lose, it's got to be worth it. So they're going to get themselves to Soul Point Slayer. A brief little window is going to open up for them.
Good cannon barrage there. Yeah. Knocks down the entire wave. That likely might have been an inhibitor turret, but instead it's saved by the ultimate Blake, and now we're breaking out into fights on the side here. Zeta Stallion is caught once more. He's going to flash his way to safety, gets the rocket shield, and a Stallion just trotted himself out to safety, but the rest of his team still wants to fight, and John wants his revenge with the stolen Curse of the Sad Mummy, stuns up the LZM bottom lane, and he's going to find Arthur as well, flash away from Griffin towards the arrow. There's the fight Dorado Gaming Zeta needed.
Yeah, exactly. It was looking good for Lane Zero Maelstrom at first. NA Stallion managing to get out of thin air. That Amumu survives, but the rest of his team goes down. John is so unbelievably strong in this game. Void has been quietly building up now to 2 items on this Ambessa, and he finally gets to show it off in that team fight. The solo laners come up clutch, and Dorado Gaming Zeta, they turn what was initially a bad situation into their favor. But the Otacon is still up, and everyone will be respawning Slayer. So both teams, their eyes are on the prize. But it's Dorado Gaming Zeta that have control of the map and will likely be first to that bot side objective.
Big marker for Griffin on those Devour stacks. So this Cho'Gath naturally pretty darn tanky in the health department by this point into the game. Even with the items that I still have to stare at him building that piss me off. But nonetheless, Griffin is sort of settling into that hybrid spot that this Cho'Gath build is so good at, where, yeah, you may not have the same resistances, but he still has the same health, and you lose fights to him. So Griffin still has to be that prodigal piece for Lane Zero Maelstrom, but there's something else brewing in the top river.
I mean, they have vision on this Otacon, and they don't have vision of a lot of members of Dorado Gaming Zeta. I feel like with how slowly this Baron is going, yeah, they're going to sniff it out. The pings are coming through. This is a dangerous game for Zeta to play. Griffin does have that ultimate, and that does more than a smite at this point. It's almost level 3 on that feast.
They're going to back him off. Cannon Barrage gets its value again from Arthur. Going to make it really hard for them to commit. Ash Arrow's going to land onto Brash into the Solar Flare. They're going to try to just lock down the Braum. Glacial Fisher's stolen, but
John,
he gets his out first. John nearly goes down, goes into the stasis, but they're not going to be able to save him for long. NA Stallion does execute him. Griffin trying to kite back with his trusty 80 carry, but there's not enough reliable damage. The Piercing Arrow won't find a kill. Neither does the Rupture. 2 for 1 in favor of Dorado Gaming Zeta, but maybe Arthur likes those odds.
Yeah, I mean, Arthur has just been silently split pushing on the top side. The health bars of Dorado Gaming Zeta are too low to continue their advance, so they're going to have to reset and respond to this top lane. So this could potentially open up an opportunity for Bondi to get this mid lane turret, open up a lot of that bot side for lane 0 Maelstrom, but it doesn't look like he wants to do it. He doesn't have the flash, and he doesn't want to risk his life. That Otacon is still up, and Slayer, that I have not seen an Otacon get taken this late into the game in a long time. Don't people usually like preen at the bit for this objective?
That's what I thought. That's how it was definitely
Especially Ruinous.
Yeah, and especially if you're lane 0 Maelstrom, ideally in you should never be coin flipping objectives because NA Stallion can just smite before Griffin's Feast that is now about to be level 3, and you will never lose out on any of these objectives. So I'm surprised the team that does want team fights, wants fights where Dorado Gaming Zeta are flying into them, are not the ones forcing objective starts right now.
Yeah. Dorado Gaming Zeta, I mean, they've got to be careful of that Feast, like you said, of the smite from NA Stallion, you know, as is the qualms with the junglers and 50-50ing. But, you know, taking away from the junglers a little bit, one member of this game that has been, you know, sort of similar to what we said about John earlier, silently building up his lead is Void, right? I mean, this Ambessa has those 2 items, is getting closer and closer to 3, and is really starting to be a menace in a lot of these exchanges, getting onto that back line and sort of forcing lane 0 Maelstrom to sacrifice and give up, going for Joker, going for Dorado Gaming Zeta's back line in exchange for protecting their own. So it's a bit of a quandary that I feel both teams have found themselves in, and it's because this Ambessa is so strong that they've both found themselves in this situation.
Well, speaking of almost going on to 3 items, the guy that just teleported in, Arthur, does have 3 items on this gangplank. He's just been farming up the storm, and he wants to fight now.
John
Both
has
top
Curse of the
laners.
Sad Mummy.
John's stolen Curse of the Sad Mummy. Is going to play a factor. Arthur is here as well. He's teleported in. This is for Mountain Soul, a big objective if you're lane 0 Maelstrom that could win them the game. And for now, they're setting up a trap in this little alcove in front of the Drake pit. Griffin's going to back off. In goes John. And there's the arrow down. It does find its mark on Bondi. Does cleanse it. Get back in. And it's a huge Curse of the Sad Mummy on the back end. Interrupts all of the Zeta squad trying to go forward. And now it's just front to back time for lane 0 Maelstrom. Piercing arrow's going to fall flat, but they're on the chase. They've got the knockups. Triple kill over to Arthur. This guy hadn't participated in a single fight, but when he came to play, he did not miss.
And Captain Gangplank has arrived, ready to reel this ship for Game 1, lane 0 Maelstrom. They could potentially sail their way to a Game 1 victory. They got the soul. The Baron is still up. NA Stallion won't be up for another 10 or so seconds, but it does not matter. 3 members down for Dorado Gaming Zeta. And a huge salute going out there to the Amumu, holding so many members of Zeta at bay in that backline, making sure that they had the time to take down Void, that Ambessa was isolated, and most importantly, not giving John an angle to effectively use that Curse of the Sad Mummy that he hijacked. It came way too late. It wasn't enough. And by the time he used it, the fight was already over. So lane 0 Maelstrom, they're punching way above their weight class here. 4-1 scoreline. Be damned.
And Arthur sitting on a 3.5K gold lead. The entire gold lead for lane 0 Maelstrom right now can be accredited to Arthur, who we talked about. Needed to be set behind in a lane assignment that was rough for him. A jungler pathing towards him. But Arthur only drops to 1 gank this entire early phase. He farms up, and now he is the problem that could break Dorado Gaming Zeta's back, and he's looking to just do it with his team now farmed up. Is the Baron pushing mid and bottom lane, does get responded with the top lane outer, but is that really going to be worth it for the structures you lose on the back end?
Not at all. I mean, they didn't even have eyes on Jim Cantor. He shows top lane, and now I'm thinking lane 0 Maelstrom are saying, okay, once we get this mid lane turret, once we get this bot lane turret, we can transition that down toward Otacon. We've got this entire side of the map in our clutches. And Dorado Gaming Zeta don't have a flank angle on any of us.
Oh, the Shirelias, the
Joker
dodge, the
almost
Astro.
died.
Joker nearly dies on his own to Arthur, who does use his orange to get out to safety, and now they've got time for the barrels to start chaining. Jim Cantori's gonna go down, and look at Griffin just holding all of Dorado Gaming in place. Hoshiyumi's gonna get flashed on, stunned up by the Braum, and that's gonna do it. With every game counting just a bit more for Lane Zero Maelstrom on the outside looking into the playoffs, they come away with a commanding Game 1 win over Dorado Gaming Zeta.
Yeah, but they're going to sail their way to a Game 1 win, like you said, Slayer. They've got the wave here. The Baron is still active. Griffin is so tanky.
Joker's going to go down. NA Stein's got him locked up. Void's done, and there it is. The cherry on top. 1-0 lead to Lane Zero Maelstrom.
And so many people were saying Dorado Gaming Zeta, they would be able to take this one, no problem. This was going to be a 2-0 in their favor. But the gods of Group A have bled, and it looks like Lane Zero Maelstrom are the ones wielding the blade.
What did we all learn here today? Cho'Gath is not nerfed enough.
Nope, not at all. What? Okay, Cho'Gath is not nerfed enough, and turrets are the MVP.
Yes.
Those are the things we learned. Early game, literally, like, you remember that meme way back in 2018 where, I think it was like Cloud9 versus Afrika, where the blue buff killed a member of Afrika, and everyone was saying C9 blue buff? Dude, LZM turrets are a different breed. Sixth member of the team. Shout out to them. They are the true MVPs if ever I've seen one. But, dude, in all honesty, what a fun game, number one. I mean, it was back and forth. It was mostly dominated here by LZM. I mean, you could see just how much that gold from Arthur helped them in this gold graph. You would expect it to be kind of up and down toward that early to mid game because it really was kind of back and forth between these two teams. But that GP was constantly getting gold, was biding its time, and once that Infinity Edge came through from Arthur, say your prayers, sing your songs, because there is no way you're getting away from this gangplank.
And, you know, speaking of that, right, it's a great draft from the coaching staff here for Lane Zero Maelstrom because you've picked champions that rely on enemy compositions not outranging you, right? Like, Cho'Gath is useless into a comp with, like, double marksman or, like, a control mage marksman where you just can't get close to them. Gangplank's the same way, right? Your barrels don't get to those priority champions you need. When you play into bruisers with an Ambessa, when you see Ambessa, Wukong, and Silas all taken in the same game, like, these are the champions you pick against them. And as easy as it is to say that, there's a lot of teams that don't recognize that in the Immortal League. And you got to give credit where credit's due for the coaching staff at LZM to recognize that with all the stakes we've brought for them in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, 4 melee comp, you put it super eloquently there, Slayer, to be honest with you. I mean, 4 melees into a Cho'Gath and an Amu, and hell, I'm even going to rope a Braum in there as well. That is just an absolute, it feels like a death sentence, and sure enough, it was. So, really good draft coming out there by Lane Zero Maelstrom. Job is not done yet. They got to win one more game in order to take this series off of Dorado Gaming Zeta, and if they can do that, their chances of making those playoffs, making that top 4 in Group A, they significantly shoot up, and I feel like they can taste it, Slayer. And frankly, I'm excited for them. This could be a massive upset for them, not just in terms of, you know, looking at it on paper, but think about what this does to the morale of a team, right? Going forward, not just in this series, but potentially ahead into the remaining, you know, week of the playoff of the regular season, and then potentially the playoffs going forward.
Yeah, this is how you make dark horse playoff teams, is big time wins at the end of the regular season. On the flip side, though, for Dorado Gaming Zeta, still looking to be the top dog in Group A. You're going to wipe the slate clean here. 10 new champions coming your guys' way, courtesy of Fearless. Game 2 draft will be live after our short break. Welcome everybody back to week 6 of the Immortal League here on Titan Esports. But before we jump into our second matchup, it's time to have a little bit of fun here, play the usual content game that Titan is very special for. So this week we had another set of Kiss, Marry, Kill, and it was, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Ink Shadow focus
Shadow
for Quacks.
Yep.
Yeah, Ink Shadow skins. So we are getting, I'm already losing track. I just want to make sure I don't butcher any of these skin names. I mean, we're going to get on the screen here. That's going to help me. Yeah, thank you, producer. Ink Shadow Kaisa, Prestige Ink Shadow Yasuo, and then Ink Shadow Yone. So the Blade Brothers and then the Half Void Spawn. And Quacks, we are a little bit differentiated. So you got to take me through your logic on this one.
All right. So I think I speak for both you and I, Slayer, on Kiss Kaisa. It's pretty self-explanatory. You know, Cassidy might come find me, but that's okay. He can't rift walk through steel beams. Anyway, I do think though, dude, I'm sorry, Yasuo is just depressed, right? Like Yone literally died, and he is in a better mood than Yasuo most of the time, and he has a demon on his face.
Okay, yeah, these are all great things. Those are all, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna say those great things. Those are all correct things. Here's my thing, right? I want to marry the man with the options left, by the way, because we're not factoring in Kaisa. I'm gonna marry the man that I know has been through some things and has come out on the other side to better themselves. Yasuo has been through a lot at this point, and
Yone died. He went through more.
Yeah, you want to marry a zombie. I'm gonna marry the guy that's still alive. I'm also the eldest brother, so like,
bro,
in my family, so he's the eldest brother.
I mean, don't take this the wrong way, but if a zombie looks like that, then I want to die too. Like, if I can look like that, then there's no reason for me to not join the Ink Shadow universe. Like, Prestige Ink Shadow Yasuo, yeah. He's cool. I'm also not a huge fan of the tattoos. Like when you tat up your body like that. Like imagine when
Yone's tatted up just like that. Look at his arm.
Okay, but his are uglier just by looking at the splash art.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Because like, do you know what that looks like when you're older? You look like a maze, like the outside of a maze that you draw. And when you're a kid, you go to Perkins, you fill it out. Like you look like the walls in a maze. It's so ugly.
Well, I think we're just gonna have to agree to disagree on this one, Quacks.
I agree.
I think we're a little differentiated. What we're not on two sides of the coin with for this one is the stakes of this matchup for Dorado Gaming, Zeta, and Lane Zero Maelstrom. As we are live from Game 2 draft, keep in mind, folks, a 2-0 here for Lane Zero Maelstrom may grab themselves a playoff spot when they're playing some of their best League of Legends. And Dorado Gaming Zeta are trying to snag the top seed that will separate themselves from the crowd when we get to that playoff bracket. They have chosen the red side. Yes. After a loss, which I am not too used to yet, but we're still getting those jungle bans, Quacks, like you talked about from Game 1.
Yep, so we're remaining really heavily focused on the jungle, and now that we have those fearless bans in play, the Wukong and the Amumu no longer going to be available. It means that we're really starting to pinch this pool down into what exactly is really good, what is meta. So I'm maybe thinking we're going to see some of those tried and true classic, jungle mid combos. One thing that we didn't see that we could see in game number 2 is something like a Nocturne paired up with an Orianna, right? Any of those big engaged junglers that are left paired up with a control mage that sort of allows them to function as a 2v2 duo. I think that could be a very real possibility going into game number 2, as we are actually just going to straight up rip mid laners out of the gate here for Dorado Gaming Zeta.
Yeah, so the Hui was banned away in the second phase of last draft. So the Hui's going to be B1 here for Dorado Gaming Zeta, like you called out, Quacks. Curious where that role will go. Lane Zero Maelstrom like to get the Ezreal here. That's a pretty good blind.
You like that pick too, don't you? Slayer?
Yeah, of course I do. Of course, seeing the Ezreal get locked in is always fun. So can be very flexible to a lot of different compositions. Not the same thing you could say for this jungler. So Lane Zero Maelstrom are already really cementing themselves as a mid-game burst potential threat, all because this Nocturne gets locked in my mind.
Yep. And you can see they're kind of, because that way got picked up, they're saying, okay, the Orianna is open. We could potentially pair that up with a Nocturne. And I think Dorado Gaming Zeta are responding as if that is already sort of a foregone conclusion. They've locked in the Xayah. They've locked in that disengage, which I really, really like. Warwick, Play the Maroon 5 music, ladies and gentlemen. We all thought it. You thought it for sure, Slayer, just based off of seeing your reaction. It's not going to be an Orianna, though.
You know, I didn't think of the song. I thought of Ferris on a cast.
That's right. I saw that clip.
Of him and Shibby. That was absolutely hilarious. Yeah, but you're right, though. The Xerath is we've got some intriguing both of these third-round selections are really tickling my brain a bit here, trying to figure out how they fit. I mean, hey, right, the living artillery, if you fire it where the fear lands, you do get burst damage. It's just way less reliable and interlinked as the Orianna, or even the Aurora, by the way. Like, Aurora is a Nocturne pairing that worked a while, so the Xerath pick better be a big one for Griffin if it's going to work alongside this comp, as we've banned away a ton of tanks and supports in the second phase.
Yeah, we have. And so now I'm kind of thinking, okay, well, you have a lot of range on the side of lane 0 Maelstrom, but you want to make sure you have that lockdown, right? Making sure that those skill shots do actually land, and they are going to respond with the Rel. I'm really wondering what they're going to be throwing in that top lane, though, because we don't know if that Warwick is in the jungle or in the top lane. So I like that they're utilizing this B5 opportunity to really make sure that more information is gathered before they respond with a pick of their own on that top side. I'm thinking something like a Renekton for them, right? Especially if this Warwick is top and takes that barrier.
Ornn going to be the B5 lock-in. So both of these teams playing kind of similar styles. They're both playing safe AD carries, safe artillery mages with the most range on the map. And then, the Gnar lock-in. Both these front lines have all the tankiness and engage left. So these are very similar comps to Pilot, which is going to make it very intriguing to see how much macro is really tested in this one, especially.
This is the definition of whichever team just plays their comp better, right? I totally 100% agree with you that these comps are super similar, and what they want to do, team fighting is going to be the name of the game for this one, and I wouldn't have it any other way, right? Dorado Gaming Zeta are saying, okay, you beat us in game number 1, you want to prove that you're better than us? Let's play the same style of composition, and you can fight us in those team fights, in those 5v5s, and LZM, if they're able to do that, they'll prove they are the better team, at least on the day. And I think really what it comes down to, Slayer, is, you know, you mentioned this in game 1, the draft, when you were asking about my opinion, that ease of execution, right? How difficult or how hard is it to really allow those wombo combos to flourish in those team fights? And if I'm being completely honest with you, I really do favor lane 0 Maelstrom, right? Really the only difficulty is comboing that Nocturne along with another engage like the Rel or the Gnar at the same time so that he isn't completely left in the dust. Other than that, it's a lot easier to utilize your level 6 combos and to utilize that team fighting if you are LZM.
Those small little differential margins gonna have to be some fun to track here is our awesome observer Golden really likes this little frog. It could be a toad.
Where's the duck?
It could be a toad. Has everyone ever thought if that was a toad or a frog? I mean, toads are always like the less talked about amphibian.
Well, I think that's the pre-evolved version of Grump, right? Because the frog jumps on the mushroom and evolves. So it's probably a frog. Because I think a lot of people say that Grump is a frog.
But is Grump a toad? I don't know. That's the hard-hitting questions that
this is a dilemma that I'm more interested in than the game at the current moment. Probably because we haven't even started, but we're about to.
We did see the same invade from lanes. Oh, I'm not realizing our score bug is also switched. If I'm not, we've also had a substitute.
Yep.
Hold on. I'm getting completely razzed.
Wait, I got
oh no, John. Oh, okay, John Joker. The
oh yeah, it's cut off.
This is cut off. Yeah. So we're getting engaged in the bottom lane. And wait, did we have the? I'm trying to figure out what we had switched. Am I just being?
I think you are.
Okay. I thought Dorado Gaming Zeta was on the red side of draft, and now they're on the blue side. They are on the blue side now.
We commented on LZM picking red side, or Dorado Gaming Zeta not picking red side rather. So.
Okay, I've completely led my entire production and co-caster astray. Do not listen to what I'm saying. I am delirious. Luckily, nothing's happened in my delirium except like one bottom lane engage. We got both the junglers clearing top down. These are two junglers that really need their ultimates to have effective ganks. 2 AD carry lanes that are about farming. The real only lane that should have a real spike in potential action is going to be Arthur on this Gnar, who should be able to get pretty good push into Void. But outside of that, I feel like we're just really just going to wait for ultimates to come around, unless...
You can see NA Stallion is thinking something's up here. They spot Hoshiumi on the ward going up, and they're going to see Jim Cantor on the red buff. This is really good utilization of priority coming out from the Warwick, right? He understands that there's push in mid. Griffin can't rotate, and they've got, that kind of spacing advantage, so they're just going to steal away that blue buff. And NA Stallion can't really do anything about it. There are no top camps to be taken because Jim Cantor took his own top camps, and so it's just a bit of a yoink, bit of an early advantage there for Dorado Gaming Zeta. And most importantly, it cuts off the Nocturne from getting 6 quicker, right? That has got to be Dorado Gaming Zeta's #1 objective. Stall out that Paranoia spike for NA Stallion as long as you possibly can. Take as many camps from him as you possibly can. Mess with his early game until he gets that ultimate and just try to delay.
Delay. Because that's a good point to make, because Warwick, in isolated 1v1s and early game skirmishes is going to be pretty good into that Nocturne. We got a Blade Caller route into a flash there from Brash. Doesn't want to get the entire engage from Hoshiumi. So first Summoner drops on the board there. A bit of a ill-advised position from the LZM support.
Yep. You can see NA Stallion in the bush. The slow has come through.
Okay, that Q was intriguing, but it's going to shut down the pre-level 6 gank from NA Stallion. Yep. And the 2 mid laners will get back to what they want to do most, which is just farm until their eyes bleed.
Pretty much. This is definitely... We're not expecting a ton of action in this game, right? We put a lot of emphasis in the draft on those team fights, on those 5v5s, and, kind of how they will be the main center of this game is Griffin. That's Flash.
Good stun. Fear's going to land, though. Griffin's going to have to still Flash, so... Jim Cantor, I'm really getting a lot of value out of the Warwick being a bit stronger until ultimates come online, and it's good to see for a Dorado Gaming team that needs this game to win.
Yeah, but Jim Cantor crucially cutting off his reset timer just a little bit. NA Stallion already went for a reset, has those double longswords, and is finishing up his top quadrant, whereas Jim Cantor is just making his own way up to the top side. So this could probably point to the Warwick doing those grubs, probably prioritizing that he will be on the top side when they spawn, whereas this Nocturne will be on the bot side. So we could see a potential early trade coming through here from the junglers, and we talked about the scaling, so getting those dragons up as soon as possible will be important as Arthur gonna have to get a really good double hop here, but should have to burn his flash again. But the follow of the Warwick Q, I still hate that interaction, but it gets Jim Cantor a howling first blood for Dorado Gaming Zeta. Yep, so he manages to pick up the first kill of the game. Starts off Dorado Gaming Zeta strong, but reveals himself on that top side. And so NA Stallion going to take this opportunity with pushing bot, with pushing mid, and immediately go toward this Mountain Dragon. Good first Dragon to have just all around, right? The Drake was recently nerfed, but I believe it was only the Soul. So it's not, that big of a loss here for LZM. Those nerfs don't really affect this objective. But it also means Zeta, knowing something is fishy, they're going to go for that trade. And again, just kind of a quiet early game, very macro-focused, like you mentioned in the Draft Slayer, and not a lot of anomalies coming through in forms of aggression. Really, it's just that one top kill, and I don't expect we're going to see that for at least a little bit. Again.
Nope, shouldn't see it until we start to get some paranoias flying out. Could be a bit of ways away from that, though, as NA Stallion is not going to get 6 off that Gromp and shouldn't have really a ton of camps spawning to get him over to level 6. He's got his red buff, but that's not even up yet, so gonna likely just take a reset and have to take a couple camps before Paranoia comes back around, and like we've been preaching, that's when a lot of the agency for Lane 0 Maelstrom will activate. Like to see that Brash is already getting out on the Rift 2 as well. Those are the two pivotal engage tools for this window for LZM.
And they're just trying to make sure that NA Stallion can get as many, chickens, as many camps, as much CS as he possibly can, because now he dings the Paranoia and can really make his presence known on this bot side. Joker doesn't have that ultimate yet, so the ability for the Zaya to just immediately disengage any pick is not there. And so you could see LZM waiting potentially for an opportunity, but just based off of where the waves are, there really isn't going to be one. So it's going to be tough, I feel, even with that Paranoia for Lane 0 Maelstrom to really punish this bot lane and potentially accelerate this Ezreal or Nocturne.
Joker really relying on his Feather Storm to save him from these Nocturne plays. I'm realizing now that both our AD carries are playing way too risky in my opinion. Neither have Cleanse. We'll see if that costs either of them later with both these engaged first dominant top sides.
Yeah,
But it's a
for
full
sure.
clear coming through for NA Stallion at the current moment. We don't have any neutrals coming up anytime soon, so this is the window where I just want to see Paranoias used on cooldown, at the very least start getting summoners, because, I mean, you look across the board, there's still only one flash having been burnt by Dorado Gaming in this one so far.
Yeah, and it seems like Dorado Gaming Zeta just aren't giving NA Stallion any opportunities to look for a play, right? He was on that top side, but Void pushes up that wave, chunks out Arthur just a little bit with how many minions he had behind him, and goes right back toward the Fog of War. And now the Nocturne misses his opportunity to visit on up there, has to keep continuing to farm, or else he's going to be behind in priority, going to be behind in tempo, which he has to keep up in this game because of how farm heavy it actually is.
You see both junglers gravitating towards these bot sides, who both now have their ultimates nearly available. Brash and Hoshiumi waiting on those.
Boy.
As topside, we have an Ornhorn call. Arthur, the hero of game number 1, just got slapped silly by Void. The assassin Ornn solo bolo rears its ugly head once more.
Yep, a tale as old as time. Everyone underestimating Ornn in the laning phase, and Arthur pays for it with his life. Yeah, I mean, that Gnar not having the flash, having to burn it earlier from, getting killed the first time by Jim Cantor just a little bit ago, that ends up being his retribution the second time around. And it's one kill left here for Dorado Gaming Zeta before they get that feat of Warfare. This game at a very slow pace, so being able to get an advantage like that, secure that for yourself, will be really impactful because, like we said, the objectives could really be just up in the air, right? That is less controllable, or that is less of an X factor than the kill. So being able to have that feat of Warfare under your thumb, you're definitely going to be smiling about that if you're Dorado Gaming Zeta.
Luckily here for Lane 0 Maelstrom, Arthur, the old adage about Gnar is that he's still effective as long as you get that one big ultimate. No matter what his items are and how many deaths he has, if you get that big Gnar bar ultimate, you'll be fine. But this does allow Void to become tankier quickly, and they're just going after Arthur. This is what we expected early game in the patch prior, now being shown at a time that it's allowed to happen. 4-man dive onto Arthur, who is now 0-3.
Yeah. And I mean, it certainly is a feels bad game here for Arthur. Really hasn't had an opportunity to play at all already. I mean, he just gets 4-man dove under his tower, but he's, whether he knows it or not, he's opening up opportunities across the map. That 4-man dive means that LZM, the rest of them, can take control of this topside river. They can get these grubs. They can get an objective for themselves. It's going to be the second one for them, which means they only need one more, and they can get the feat of dragon slaying. So just those small little victories. Sure, it's plates going over to the bot side of Dorado Gaming Zeta, but they don't get the full turret. And honestly, if I'm, playing the long game like LCM are, I will take 3 plates, being taken away from me over, being able to get those grubs and having that dragon stacking under my thumb.
And they've been able to rush themselves down to the pit to get here in time and starting it. This is really aggressive. They're seeing the double teleport come across, and now it's just going to be absolutely punished by Dorado Gaming Zeta, who purely had a man advantage. That's all they needed to wreck that first real fight. 2 kills and a dragon that felt virtually for free.
That was a huge oversight coming out there from Lane 0 Maelstrom. You don't have eyes on so many members of Dorado Gaming Zeta. You have to anticipate that they're bot side as well because you were just top side. You took control of that part of the map and you saw no members. Like you said, Slayer, it's a huge overforce, and now the question becomes, how much is that going to cost them, right? Because it's now the feat of Warfare unlocked. Well, it was already unlocked, but it just means that they have so much more power, particularly in that top side. The Ornns got that kill. It's 3-0 for Jim Cantor, and even John got a little piece of the pie in that exchange, as well as the Dragon. So it's a major win for Dorado Gaming Zeta, and LZM. It's just off the back of a huge, huge misplay from them.
Yeah. Missed timing. We haven't really seen them jump on these paranoia windows yet, and we talked about it. This game is really going to be marred by who executes the comp better because of how starkly similar they are. And with this gold lead, Dorado Gaming, Zeta can set themselves up for pretty easy feats of strength play. You've got a Warwick that's going to be so hard to kill. Honestly, Void and Jim Cantore might just be the heroes of this game because they're going to survive so long that this Zaya and Hui are going to get to really throw out their entire combos with little worry.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they've got that front line secure. For the time being, I think the big worry about a champion like Warwick is simply how much he falls off as the game goes on, right? Once you get toward those team fights, it's hard for him sometimes to find agency. So getting him these kills, getting him this gold early on to at least prolong the time until that inevitably happens is really good on Dorado Gaming Zeta, but that still has to be in the back of their mind. Once team fights come across, once 5v5s come across, what is Jim Cantor's job going to be, and how can he effectively do it without getting focused down by LZF?
Whoa.
Bondi.
Joker finds the kill on the Bondi. Looks like he dies with flash up, so must have. I'm going to think a death brush snagged him on that one.
Probably.
But still a perfect game on the scoreboard for Dorado Gaming Zeta. Great response so far to the game 1 loss, and they're looking for another dive here, but they see the turret plates drop, and they're just going to sneak out feats of strength with the turret taken. First turret over. This is clinical so far from Dorado Gaming.
Yup, they're playing slow, methodical. They're punishing Lane 0 Maelstrom for their positioning mistakes, and they're not giving an inch, like you said, Slayer. So we're actually going to go for a replay to see what exactly happened to Bondi. Okay, it was a reverse death brush. He was on a ward, and he had nowhere to go.
Yeah, tries to Arcane Shift at the very end there, but gets grabbed by the last root. Actually good of him to die with summoners up there. A lot of people just panic burn them. Accepted his misplay and falls.
And it's going to be good right now because there is going to be a Herald spawning in under a minute. So if the Ezreal decides to join up in that fight, he'll have that crucial summoner spell up. But, I mean, just looking at the positioning of Lane 0 Maelstrom, it doesn't look like they have any real way into the river. You can see Dorado Gaming Zeta, their front line is just pushing up. Yeah, they are completely choking out LZM from this top side, making it really difficult for them to get any just sort of vision on this area, much less a body or a presence in that river.
Yeah, and look at the item difference, too, as well for this upcoming fight. It was just very heavy gold in the favor of Dorado Gaming Zeta. Do get caught trying to go for Griffin. There's the paranoia down. They're bailing all out to get this Warwick who just jumps himself to safety. Root going to come across from Hoshiomi. They've got chained roots and a Spiraling Despair onto the head of NA Stallion. Arthur's trying to dive in, but the Blade Caller makes sure that he's the only one going forward, and another Clutch Sphere comes across for John. The two mainstay damage dealers stay safe, but Griffin finds himself a big shutdown. Ornhorn under the turret from Void. It's bloody, it's bruising. But it's a win fight for Dorado Gaming as they continue to push their lead.
Yep, it's a 1 for 3 at the end of it all. Dorado Gaming Zeta really flexing their wallet at this point, and those team fights finally start to come up here in game 2 as Void.
Flash away from Griffin. Another summoner claimed by Void, who is just so difficult to deal with and such a threat for anybody on Lane 0 Maelstrom. This game is spiraling quick for the LZN side.
And it's going to be even worse, right? You were talking about how difficult it was to take down Void, and I really want to emphasize that point just a little bit further, because look at the armor pen on the side of LZM, and don't worry if you can't see it. There literally is none. There is no way to take down this Ornn, and so if you can't take down the Ornn, if you can't get through him or you can't find a flank, you're not going to be able to get the back line. And so DOGZ are just sort of running away with this game 17 minutes in, and LZM, they're looking for a silver bullet, but there is none in existence. I feel like they just have to play the waiting game. They're going to most certainly have to give up this dragon, I think, Slayer.
The full moon is coming for the werewolf side, it feels like. As fight after fight, they just found themselves even more in control. This one, like you mentioned, they're going to give that first Infernal Soul Drake in effort to try and just shut down some of these lanes shoving into them. They're really trying to lean into Arthur still being a split push menace into this Ornn, but it's just so hard to budge the Forge guy at this point. They're starting to rely on catching them walking into brush, but Hoshiumi will happily take up the first aggro. Brash is flying on in, trying to get to this Zaya and Hui. They've got the living artillery down, the true shot barrage.
Oh, they got him!
But it's just not enough damage to kill off John. Instead, they're going to take out Jim Kentori. Hoshiumi's going to be next, but in flies Void with the Ornhorn. Still going to drop the Maokai, and now it's all bets are off flying on in. Bondi's going to find himself face to face with Void, who once again finds a way to turn the fight in favor for Dorado Gaming Zeta.
And it's a 2 for 2. Honestly, I disagree with you, Slayer. It is a 2 for 2. And at this point, when you're behind like lane 0 Maelstrom and even fight in even numbers and casualties for both sides, that's a win for the behind team. So I actually think LZM, they found an opportunity. Brash is really living up to his name here. He is going in, constantly looking for opportunities, even when they look at first glance a bit like an overextension. They managed to capitalize off of this rel, locking down those members of Dorado Gaming Zeta, and they find their first even trade of the game. So a potential glimmer of light here for LZM in those team fights, but the fact remains, you gotta deal with Void, you gotta deal with Joker.
Joker and John are deathless in this game so far, and that's really the difference, is that those two are just going to scale to infinity. The Ornn itemization, it won't be far behind. They're both going to hit 2-item thresholds pretty soon on after this Herald take. These 2v2 splits are nice for now, but if you want to win and come back in this game, lane 0 Maelstrom, you're going to have to get the shutdowns off of John and off of Joker, who are right now focusing themselves on this Herald taken for free. John and... Oh, they're about to go for a wraparound. Maybe it's actually Brash that's going to go for this wraparound.
Brash?
Go after the namesake. John has to flash out of the Magnet Storm. Moving artillery, not going to find a ton of damage. So they do get a key summoner out, lane 0 Maelstrom, and you'll take that.
Yeah, absolutely. John now has a big, fat, massive red target on his back for the next fight. This Hui has to be careful for the upcoming 5 minutes because, yeah, LZM, they're going to make it their mission to try and collect that shutdown money to put a dent in that perfect KDA from the Hui. And there is an opportunity rearing its ugly head in about 10 seconds here. The Otacon will spawn. I believe it is going to... If I was the gambling man, I would say this is definitely Voracious. It's been a slower game. No, it's Ruinous.
Wow. League just said, screw you, Quacks, like, in live picture right there.
My bad, bro.
Voracious. Ruinous Otacon is spawned on the Rift. Arthur's about to spawn off the Rift. I've seen this 4-man dive happen before. He flashes away too after the root comes across, and that flash is not going to allow him to go for those big Gnar ultimates for the next 5 minutes. And, wow, they might get a tier 2 turn off this.
Yeah, they're going to. I mean, LZM, despite Dorado Gaming committing so many members to the top side, they're not able to capitalize off of the rest of the map. You can see Bondi there kind of, you know, trying to equalize the wave states in the bot lane. The mid lane was open for the taking, but because that Herald was active, because there were so many members of Dorado Gaming Zeta on that top side, they were forced to respond. So they get nothing in this exchange, and Dorado Gaming Zeta now going to go for that recall. They're going to materialize toward the bot side of the map, and really just going to start looking for this Otacon. With it being Voracious, that free revive could allow them to potentially just look for a rash or brash team fight going forward. And
Ruinous, Quacks. You're trying to force the Voracious. It can't happen. It's not on this Rift. We do have a Paranoia going down. They're going after John, who doesn't have any flashes. How long can he survive? There's living artillery shutdown given over towards Griffin. Is this the fight for Lazy Maelstrom? They don't have the Zaya here as well. It's just the two tanky members left, but Void just will not die. This guy's taking shots.
Oh, Jim Cantore!
In comes Jim Cantore. Play the animal song. This guy's trying to be the fight difference maker, and he might have just found his mark. Down goes N.I. Stallion. Down goes Brash. It's Jim Cantore to the rescue, and Otacon might be their victorious spoil.
And Joker, he's the difference maker, the playmaker as well. And he manages to take down N.A. Stallion. Now it is 2 members of LZM, including the jungler, on that gray screen. There's going to be some interference attempted here by LZM, but without a smite, I don't think they can secure this.
Ricker's trying to get the Narvar stacked up. He's going to get it just now. Maybe try and steal some of these roses away. As everyone's just handshaking, seeing how many roses they can get. That's honestly one of the biggest things that Ruinous Otacon gives over. Griffin maybe chasing to find some of these exits as well.
They're trying to stop the backs.
Has Mega Gnar. Yeah, they're trying to desync the resets for that dragon.
Yep, they are. This is a really good play coming out from them because now you could see or NA Stallion rather, I got my junglers wrong, is back on the map. The Nocturne is here. All of LZM are right behind him, and they're going to take this dragon and equalize that neutral objective count. So, they lose the Otacon, they lose a crucial neutral objective, but honestly, they got the shutdown from John. They got a second dragon, so you get kind of a consolation prize. You don't win the whole thing. You don't get first place, but you get, I would say, what is described as a participation award at the end of all that.
Right. Evening up the Drake count. So they've got that in their pocket, but still so little of the map to play for if you're Lane 0 Maelstrom. They're yet to get a turret at 25 minutes almost, and I say 25 minutes because I don't think they're going to take a turret by the time we get to Baron spawning. And that's really going to limit just how much of the map they can knock out Fog from.
Yeah, for sure. And, those ornaments are starting to come through. You can see Joker has the upgraded Infinity Edge. So this Xayah is really going to start to hurt like hell as, he had to use the shield.
Flashes still gets roots there. Is Jim Cantori flying over? Brash will eat 2 ultimates and get out with his own life. So good job from Brash to maybe set up this turn here for Lane 0 Maelstrom. Living Artillery, you gotta hit your shots. Paranoid down.
They got him!
And the last shot to the ultimate. Find the 2 kills onto John and Jim Cantori. Unfortunately, though, NA Stallion flew in all on his lonesome and will be traded out, but that is a positive kill ratio for the first time all game for Lane 0 Maelstrom.
That was probably a bit of miscommunication coming out there from Lane 0 Maelstrom. NA Stallion goes in there, but the kill is already secured. And they're utilizing that range slayer. We haven't really seen it be effective yet, but the Xerath, having that Ezreal, having all of this poke is really starting to force Dorado and Zeta into tough situations where they can't make up the distance, and that poke is really starting to hurt some of these squishier members. John, he went from 4-0 to now 4-2, so that Hui significantly reduced in terms of effectiveness. Still has that damage with those 2, almost 3 items, but now is certainly mortal going into this game. LZM, their biggest worry, though, has yet to be taken down. It's the Joker, ladies and gentlemen. Which Joker it is has yet to be determined, but he's certainly playing like Joaquin Phoenix acted in The Dark Knight.
Quacks.
Or wait, no, Heath Ledger.
Quack.
Oh my God,
Okay.
I got them mixed up.
Right.
That is a you know what? Delete the vibe.
At least you didn't say Jared Leto in the dark. Like at least you said.
You're right. Okay, if I
another
said Jared Leto, it would have been immediate disconnect from the voice call.
I would have been on board with that one for sure. But on the flip side, I always love when in competitive games you see like solo queue tropes shine through. How many solo queue games have you been ahead of against the Xerath, and then you forgot the fact that Xerath has been untouched this entire game, farming well, and now you're like, oh crap, he's deleting my entire team? Because that's kind of what's happening right now.
Yeah, kind of.
With Griffin.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean,
I feel like 3 items.
I feel like I've played against Ziggs so many times, who has kind of a similar archetype where,
true.
You kind of put him behind, but then his Mega Inferno Bomb does like Oppenheimer levels of damage. And you remember that Ziggs just scales into oblivion. Xerath has a similar kind of power curve. So, although it hasn't been Xerath, I do feel like Ziggs has warmed me up to a sort of a scaling archetype like that for what Xerath has.
Man, Griffin is likely rushing that Void Staff, knowing that he's going to have to burn through some of these tanky health bars.
Ouch.
We have the Baron dance starting, and you're starting to already see Griffin display some of his damage as Dorado Gaming try and set up around the Purple Worm, but they've got to answer the mid wave, and maybe they look for a fight here with Bane advantage. Void's doing the Oran Horn with the Grasping Roots. It's a ton of nature flying on through, and they're going to get their first root onto Bondi, who drops like a lumber falling in the forest. Griffin dies as well, gives away his shutdown. The 2 carries of Lane 0 Maelstrom falling. It might just cost them this game.
It might indeed. I mean, they've got the 3 grubs. They've got all 5 members. Dorado Gaming Zeta also have the wave. Void can take up the turret if need be. LZM don't have wave clear as well, so it's going to be hard for them to delay this one. Arthur, he might have to go, and he might have to sacrifice his life to clear it out, though.
Narbar's ticking down. He's going to have to go now if he wants it. He's cleared out the wave, though. It wasn't too thick of one to deal with. And Dorado Gaming Zeta don't want to gamble, giving a ton of shutdowns over with Bondi spawning soon. Griffin not far behind, so they'll take the inhibitor and play for the map once again with so many structures down in their favor.
Yep. Dragon coming up in about 20 seconds here. Dorado Gaming Zeta down some crucial ultimates, but they have so much of this river. They have so much of the map that honestly, I'm not sure they have to worry. But LCF, they might look to force something here. The big thing, though, is the Gnar bar is very low, so that Mega Gnar won't come up for a while.
They're on a ward, though. And
Yeah,
you can tell the Lane Zero Maelstrom want to go, knowing they have vision. Holding living artillery, looking for a good target, but they brunt up Brash before he can even jump down on anybody, and they have no paranoia, so Joker just calmly dodges out on all the Xerath's ult damage. They are forced out of the river, and Arthur is going mega. But like you called out, Quack, so well, Void can try and silence this fight with the Ornhorn call-out. Dragon started, chunking damage coming across here. Arthur, he has the Gnar ultimate. Is he going to go in here or let his team just get whittled down? Looking towards another coin flip. There's the Ornhorn. Lights get knocked out. Knockup's going to land onto Brash. All the roots land onto the support. It's the two carries that are trying to kite themselves back, but it's not enough because the Joker has sung through. Heath Ledger wants his Oscar in the form of this Xayah for Dorado Gaming Zeta. And they have fights on the wrong side of the area, though, but Brody's going for the kill onto John. Finds himself some safety for now, and the Xerath is really starting to sink through as well. There's no living artillery to deal with. Trushan Barrage hits the tank. Joker, though, in the background, picture in picture, he's trying to rush down the base. He knows they're chasing the kills, and he wants to go for glory. Gets the first Nexus turret down. It's only Arthur to respond to him. They're teleporting people in. Joker doesn't want to fight. He wants all the glory, and a Stallion will respawn soon. Will hit the rift in time, but do they get the kills first? Thunderstorm out from Joker. Gets out of the Xerath damage. Joker finally going to go down, but the rest of his team is here now as well to help out. Brody trying to turn out the damage. Mystic shot after mystic shot, but is there enough in the tank? He can't get through the front liners. And John has the spare back up, lands it onto NA Stallion with the Severing Bolt, finds the kill. It has to be Brody to do it all on his lonesome, but he's losing the Nexus in the background. Brody goes down. Game over. Dorado Gaming Zeta even up our series.
And we're going to game 3 here, Slayer. What a climactic ending to game 2. This game, it was like 24-8 in kills. You wouldn't expect such a high intense finale to this one, but it delivered, and this series keeps on delivering. A clean win almost for Dorado Gaming Zeta. The late game, there were some hiccups along the road, but Joker and Void, they come through when it matters. In that late game combination, those team fightings, we said it was going to be the mark of who won this game, who team fought better. And Dorado Gaming Zeta, they were definitely superior in that aspect here of game 2.
I should be warned prior if there's going to be a 2-minute call before it happens. That was, I think, the longest I've been near shouting.
That was like your Captain Flowers IG backdoor versus KT moment.
That's a famous one. You know it's a long call when you can feel your diaphragm once you're done yelling. That's a play-by-play trade of secret. But yes, Quacks, Dorado Gaming Zeta, despite the chaos at the end of the game, they really just dominated in this one and showed why that they're competing for first seed, while Lane Zero Maelstrom are trying to pick up the scraps to get into playoffs. And that game was perfectly indicative of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like Dorado Gaming Zeta, after game number 1, they were like, all right, let's go back to basics. Let's play for Joker. Let's play for John. Let's put Void on kind of this backseat carry that can really allow that scaling to come forth. Let's team fight. That's one of our best aspects as a team. And they did all of those things and more, right? It was a classic game of League of Legends. It was textbook. By the way, Dorado Gaming Zeta played it, and they followed the instructions like they were Emmett from the Lego movie. And there's the first movie reference that I've gotten right in this entire stream, Slayer.
There you go. We'll carry that on into the break here. Let Quacks maybe see if we get a couple quips down before game 3, because that will be our final game of tonight. The stakes are clear. A win here could get Dorado Gaming Zeta to the top of Group A, and a win for Lane Zero Maelstrom might just grab themselves a playoff spot from the outside looking in. All of it comes to a climactic ending after another short break.
You do like do crazy, oh crazy, oh crazy, crazy, oh crazy, oh crazy, do crazy, do crazy, do crazy, do crazy, crazy, you do like do like do crazy, oh like do crazy, oh.
It all comes down to this, Titan Faithful. Week number 6's showcase matchup has gone the distance. 20 champions are going to be off the board. The last 2 games, hopefully out of the minds of both of these teams, the way they've gone, 1 apiece. Game 3 will decide it, Quacks. And let everybody at home, let's make sure to remind everybody at home the stakes of this game for both sides of the matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for Dorado Gaming Zeta, this is just a chance, or rather, to a chance to tell the story of this organization who has consistently made it to the top of any bracket of any league that they have ever really participated in. They've always been a team that, or rather an organization that has really prided themselves on always at least making playoffs. And that is why so many people want to be on one of these teams on Dorado, because they're really famous. They're really known for putting up good results, so much so that now they found themselves in the open qualifier with their own team. So I think that speaks volumes to how successful they have been, now being able to get a team to literally the highest level that isn't tier 2 or potentially above. And for LZM, this is a chance to get into playoffs, right? You are currently 2-3. You take a win here, and the chances of you getting into that top 4 significantly shoot up and keep your playoff chances alive. Of course, it's also going to help if you win your last week match, but it would be a great start here to upset one of the best teams, and not just Group A, but one of the best teams in the Immortal League, period. So the stakes are high. We're at game 3. Both of these teams going to have to play on a knife's edge. Razor-thin margins will likely determine this one, and I'm super excited to get this show underway, Slayer.
Without a doubt. Controlling your own destiny would be just going 2-0 here. LZM might be able to sneak the 4th spot out with that. We'll have to see, because this game will really determine it. 20 champions off the board, like I mentioned, but our bans are still sticking pretty similar and jungle focused. Vi, Ivern, and Darius and Corky have all been banned away in this entire series. So you take away all the champions that these teams like while still banning the same champions from the last couple of games. It means I'm a little scared of what we may end up picking throughout here.
Yep. And then Jarvan noticeably left unbanned. I believe it was banned in both games 1 and 2. So we could see some priority on that one later down the line, but probably not going to be hit right away, as Jarvan not a huge priority pick, at least in B1 standards. You know who is, though, Slayer? It's Miss Medarda over there, the other Miss Medarda.
Yeah, we already saw Medarda Sr., so now we get Medarda Jr. with Mel locked in at the B1 spot. Something that both of these blue sides have been a fan of is shifting. Oh, you know, the Hui for Dorado Gaming Zeta was shifted around or locked in as a kind of flex pick. The Mel can do the same thing. No flexibility with that bottom lane, though, for Dorado Gaming. That is Karma Caitlyn, potent early game double range poke machines.
Yep, for sure. So, you know, we saw Joker be a primary carry in game number 2, and I do feel like Caitlyn, you know, with an enchanter like Karma, you can really set it up to be that late game threat. And so I think the onus on LZM, at least in this draft, is going to be closing that distance, finding champions that can get up in the face of Caitlyn. Jarvan certainly fulfills that niche, and I think pairing it up with the Galio to create that sort of death box combo that they're famous for with their ultimates will really put Dorado Gaming Zeta in a tight situation if they find themselves, you know, face to face with it, and the Caitlyn especially doesn't have that flash.
Shyvana is a very intriguing pick here.
Yes,
a lot of flexibility in the build.
interested.
Yeah, for Jim Cantore. So this has got to be a comfort pick. Galio, without seeing any mages, is also a very intriguing pick. Especially when we talk about lane assignment. This is not going to be a mid lane Galio, I don't believe.
No,
Top lane
not.
rarely happens. So are you expecting this to go support as we start banning away top laners here, Quacks?
I honestly still think it's going to go mid lane, and I'm really just interested to see what Dorado Gaming Zeta counter with, right? Because there are plenty of AD mid laners that I think you could utilize and really bully this Galio out. Yone is the one that really comes to mind, right? I mean, we've seen John kind of pilot that poke style, right? We saw him with the Hui last game. So to see him kind of flex up and say, you know, I can play poke mages and I can play fighters like the Yone, I think would really kind of put us with him as a complete mid laner, right? Knowing that this guy can play all facets, all styles of mid laner. But we'll have to wait and see. That Aatrox being locked in to the response of the science just further confirms that this is still likely a Galio in the mid lane, Slayer.
I like to see that Dorado Gaming have waited to pick until late. As they
Wait, I was wrong. It is a Galio support. Wow.
So it's Mel, Galio in the bottom lane for lane 0 Maelstrom.
I love it.
With a Yone mid and a Aatrox top, a ton of damage. A Kali is going to be the quick answer into that Yone. And now we have our lane assignments. And boy, our lane 0 Maelstrom just ready to brawl with this comp.
No.
Another comp in this series where it's just 4 melees, basically. Oh, no, yeah, this one is 4 melees.
Yeah, it is 4 melees, absolutely. But I do feel like, you know, we kind of talked about that in game number 1, how good of a combination LZM had to counter the 4 melees that Dorado Gaming Zeta had in game number 1. This time around, you want to keep your distance for the most part, right? You want to have the Caitlyn and the Karma, you know, create that space. The Akali to be able to dance around the fight. The Shyvana to spit fire, you know, literally and figuratively. Maybe she's got some bars in her head that she wants to get out about how awful Demacia is to dragons. But for the most part, keeping that range, keeping that distance is priority number 1 for Dorado Gaming Zeta. And really, it's an opposite here. Like you said, Slayer, LZM, they want to close that gap. They want to keep fighting. Normally, when you see these big game 3s, you see a lot of hesitancy, a lot of carefulness in these all decisive, you know, sort of series points where one mistake could cost you the game and then, you know, obviously the series. It's a very quiet, calm game. Normally game 3s, game 5s, very slow. We do not want this to be slow if we are LZM. No. We want to fight. We want to snowball. We want this mid-jungle duo to be up in the face of this Shyvana. And like game 2, we never want this powerhouse farming champion to get that power farming done. And we don't want it to get that level 6, right? We saw the denial from the Nocturne in game 2. It's the same thing here in game 3.
I love that we're getting to meet all the critters around Summoner's Rift.
Yeah, we had a frog and now we have a lizard.
Lizard. You know, I don't know if I ever really noticed that lizard. So shout out to Golden picking that one out.
And there's quite a few critters here on Summoner's Rift. We've got let's see if I can remember most of them. We've got the frog. We've got the salamander that we just saw. We've got the duck. It's in the river sometimes. There's the deer on the side, right? Who sits there. Yep. What else is there? Oh, yep. There's the fox, the little fox. Or the squirrel, whatever that is.
Some sort of hybrid. Hybrid. Wow. So we're taking a little tour with Golden there, and there's more of them. They're all sneaking around. Yeah,
Do
that's
you
a
think he caused
hybrid of
that skeleton
something.
to exist? That thing might be a vicious killer. There's a skeleton right next to it.
That's a pretty big skeleton head. If that thing killed whatever had that skeleton head, yeah, that thing is definitely to be
Don't mess
feared.
with it.
Don't
Next
mess
champion
with
in league.
it. There you go. We're previewing it. Here's who you don't mess with if you're lane 0 Maelstrom. Is going to be this bottom lane. Karma and Caitlyn should have a lot of control into a mage and a Galio as well. But it's the top side for lane 0 Maelstrom they'll look to get the lead with. This is their scaling backup plan we're seeing.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And it really seems like Jim Cantor and the rest of Dorado Gaming Zeta are wanting to play for them, right? It worked out in game number 2, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You can see that the Shyvana is pathing bot lane. And Ace Stallion, though, will be pathing toward the top side. We've seen a lot of, particularly on the blue side of the map. Last game, we saw Jim Cantor cut across after he took this red side quadrant. So I'm wondering if, wanting to deny that CS from the Shyvana, maybe this Jarvan thinks, okay, I want to try and do the same, and I want to impact this bot lane, but it doesn't look like that is going to be the case. It's just a question of power farming for the time being, and honestly, you want to interrupt that as LZM as quickly as you can.
We've been interrupted. Currently, it looks like I'm gonna have to lean back. We got some sort of pause that we caught up to. As I expose my secrets of casting, it's called burning my corneas by staring as close as I can to the team fight so I can see everything that's happening.
I lead it
That's
sometimes
that's
as
my
well.
plan.
It's so when we go in, I also get taken by surprise. But yeah, I mean, just talking a little bit more about the game plans while we wait for the pause to kind of sort itself out. The Jarvan and basically just all of the side of LZM need to be the aggressors, right? They need to be the ones
Right.
making proactive plays, getting in the face of this Shyvana, getting in the face of this Caitlyn, and making sure that it cannot scale, that it cannot abuse that range advantage. And that'll be no more, important than in the team fights, right? You cannot let them poke you out and, kind of whittle you down before you engage. You have got to be the ones first on the trigger. You've got to act
Exactly.
before they can get that poke out. So it's a question of speed, right? It's a question of who's faster, and it's a question of who can make use of that proactivity quicker.
It's just so poetic that game 1 was lane 0 Maelstrom picking a comp that really well matched the style they're playing now in a bigger game. They are playing the 4 melees, the brawling on top of you sort of composition once more. And the question now is, did Dorado Gaming Zeta, I always want to say Zenith. There's so many little Z quips. Zeta, did they draft the right things to kind of deal with it? And for now, I think they kind of have. I think the Scion is a good spot to deal with that. The Shyvana will be somewhat tanky as it does look like we're going back into game, so we're back live. That's good to see.
So we're 5 minutes in.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah. Did we skip some time?
Yep, so there is a spec bug that kind of takes you a bit further into the game, but no kill has been on the board yet, but a dragon might immediately fall, and a lot of people forget this interaction, but Shyvana loves dragons, right? Because it allows the R cooldown to come up quicker, and so having that in your back pocket not only helps your scaling, but it helps Shyvana, get that big team fight ultimate up quicker and allows the pace of those team fights to accelerate significantly.
That dragon will be claimed. So first one picked up there, thanks to some good bot prio. Like to see that, knowing that Jim Cantori has the more aggressive bottom lane to lean on. Good to see that in our little riot climb bug. We didn't miss any flashes either. There hasn't been any real significant trading missed at this point. It's really just been that one dragon. Grub spawn, and NA Stallion will immediately hop on them with Arthur. This is the side of the map that LZM are going to be much stronger in the earlier phase. So a game 3 where, nerves and heightened stakes come into play. Both these teams kind of just going through the motions that they've drafted for.
And, kind of pulling away a little bit from these grubs. You could see that that Brash actually went toward the mid lane, tried to make a play onto John, and the Akali, being just the very balanced mobile champion that it is, managed to slip away. And so that allowed for the priority to shift in that bot lane. Dorado Gaming Zeta now pushing Bondi and Brash, who has now found his way back toward this bot lane, in toward their side of the map. So I'm wondering what they're going to do with this. We saw Jim Cantor on the bot side. Again, it's a very slow pace of game, and it's up to LZM to interrupt that pace and start to accelerate it as quickly as possible.
And to do that, you have to fight. So
Yeah, let's
hopefully
fight,
we see
guys.
that. Hopefully we see that coming at some point. NA Stallion's got ult. Griffin's here as well. Cataclysm into that Fate Seal could be a little bit of a fun combo. They're really looking to just dogpile onto John, who does have Summoners, does have Shroud. Everything available to avoid this gank. No, they're not going to land from Griffin. They're not committing yet. You can see John knows
Oh boy,
nothing of
here
this
we go.
gank, sees the Galio show. He's going to go into the Shroud, dodge the taunt, dodge the Flagged Dragon. Throw the old thumbs up. Nice try, guys. Pack it up.
Yep, not able to get that kill, and you know, again, we were looking at a lot of these aggressive plays to be signaled by NA Stallion, right? We wanted to see the Jarvan go into the jungle of the Shyvana, make plays with Brash, but so far, you know, just based off of looking at the scoreline, there hasn't been a lot of proactivity from LZM. I think the real, you know, difference that you know, that could change that is when that hero's entrance comes up, right? When you have the safety of that Galio being able to teleport over to you, and Brash is currently level 5, right? He is getting closer and closer to unlocking that ultimate. I think once he does, we should see this Jarvan, at the very least, look to be a little bit more unhinged and look for some of those traits, knowing that he's got that hero's entrance in his back pocket, ready to back him up should the need arise.
Maybe to combo it with some of these other key ultimates. We'll have to see here. Is the top side lead for Lane 0 Maelstrom is apparent for Arthur, who has himself a pretty significant CS lead. That's the lane that we figured. Outside of that, the map state is pretty darn even. It's good to see, though, for LZM that Bondi has farmed along well with Joker and Hashiyumi playing that aggressive 2v2 range bottom lane. That might be under threat here from NA Stallion, who's waiting to flag and drag over the wall. There he goes. He sees Hashiyumi separate away from Joker. Does use the net to get out of the Cataclysm, and maybe that's not the target you go for with that Jarvan ultimate, just for that very reason.
Yeah, I mean, he burns the ultimate. Doesn't have to burn the flash, though. But crucially, no summoners burned by the bot lane of Dorado Gaming Zeta either. So they will just get out scot-free. It was a free trade, and now information by Zeta has been gathered as Joker.
Oh, Joker, no. We were singing your praises for not having to use any summoners for the gank, and he ends up having to burn both of them to a Brash engage. He doesn't even burn his flash. So right when we were talking about the credit to Joker, the caster curse strikes.
Yeah, and now that kind of opens up opportunities potentially for NA Stallion to continue looking down there, right? That Cataclysm is on a, I think, really, like, people underestimate how low of a cooldown Jarvan's ultimate is actually at. So as soon as he finishes up this quadrant, he'll probably go for these topside grubs, but after that, it's really anyone's guess what he could do. He could go for the dragon, but he could find himself on the bot side and potentially punish this Caitlyn for not having those summoners.
What you'd like to see is Lane 0 Maelstrom definitely have to be the more proactive team in this mid phase of the game if they want to come away with the win. So got to start showing what this comp you drafted is made of, with Grubs and Dragon coming up within the next 30 seconds. And I'm glad we're getting some love shown to the little... Did we call them doggies? Is that what... I'm assuming this is referring to the pets. Oh, we don't have time to break that down. John is flying in on NA Stallion. Griffin with the spirit form over the wall. And maybe we do have time for the doggies.
Yeah, and a bit of a chunk there onto Jim Cantor, paying real close attention toward that top side, though, right? If we see Void have the ability to utilize that ultimate and use it in this river, then it could be really dangerous for Lane 0 Maelstrom. So they've got to be careful of the positioning of this Scion, and you can see they're playing it very carefully. They're not committing too many resources to the pit. They're really focusing Brash and Griffin on zoning and making sure Jim Cantor can't enter the river without taking damage.
Good movement here from honestly both supports, Hashiyumi and Brash, to play the map as best they can. And this is another trade that I think Dorado Gaming Zeta are just happy to make. Yeah, it does suck to give away 6 grubs, but with a Shyvana, stacking these dragons is always plentiful, but maybe LZM are looking to interrupt it without their own jungler. They're not going to try and take the dragon. They might just try and shake Jim Cantore, or at least stall. Griffin going to fly back with the spirit form, and now Dorado Gaming can reset and take that dragon on schedule. Dragon stacking, the advantage of the Zeta side. Lane 0 Maelstrom will have 6 grubs going forward in this decider of a Game 3.
Yeah, and it's going to be a Hextech Drake Soul as well. Arguably, I would say, probably the most, you know, well-rounded of the souls, right? It's not very comp dependent. You will always take a Hextech Soul. You know, it's equally good in every comp that you put it in. I would say, though, that I would honestly argue a little bit against the 6 Grubs versus 2 Dragons trade, Slayer. I feel like 6 Grubs given over to champions like Yone and champions like Aatrox, who are good at taking those towers, is really, really useful for getting them ahead later down the line. And it's especially good when you're denying it from champions like the Scion, right? Who want to split push, want to be that side lane threat, and now won't necessarily have that pressure with the Grubs to be as, much of a threat that they want to be.
That's a good point to make. I just counter with Shyvana like dragons, so can't really complain.
Dragon like dragons.
Here we go. Flash out for a Cataclysm.
Joker no
Sky's gonna get that one out, and Joker without their summoners from earlier is gonna pay the first blood. It took 12.5 minutes, but Bondi picks it up with a golden eclipse to get LZM on the board. And maybe we'll have the response on the top side here immediately. Jim Cantore looking for a gank on to Arthur. Void gets the slow. Arthur's going to pop himself that World Ender, get the speed up, but eats a knockup. Eats a pair of knockups. Gets himself a triple knockup, but it doesn't matter because he just heals through all the damage and walks out scot-free.
Yeah, I mean, he gets out of that, doesn't even have to burn the flash. And look at the bot side of the map. 6 Grubs are going to pay such a dent in Dorado Gaming Zeta's bot side. It's a huge win there for LZM just in terms of being able to get advantages on the map. That turret's already at 1 plate, Slayer.
And plates are going to drop in 45 seconds. So how often do you see the first feat potentially going to be the turret taken? That's a rarity. It might not happen this game, but
I actually saw it recently, but this usually does not happen. Your point still stands. I just cast too many games of League of Legends. As Brash, it's okay. We didn't see it. No, cut the clip. Golden, zoom out. Nothing happened. Okay, we're chilling.
Brash really wants to. Brash really wants to gank John. I mean, he is determined to at least get a flash out of this Akali. It has not worked yet, but he's definitely determined. I can't believe we're at this point in the game with 1 kill. Quacks, these players just don't want your analyzing to really come through. Quacks in the draft was like, usually game 3s are slow and you very little kills, but LZM are not going to do that.
They're going to do that.
They're going to do that.
They have done that. It's I mean, that's just how it goes, right? No one wants to be the reason why you lost the series, and in LZM's case, no one wants to be the reason why you didn't make playoffs. So that's why they're playing so methodical, so calculated, and making sure that every move they make is within their best interest and they aren't sacrificing too much. And so far, it seems like that mindset is paying off quite nicely for them. They're up a kill, right? They're up gold. They're super close to getting that bot lane turret. Once that happens, they'll have a lot more leeway around that bot side of the map to get vision around this dragon and to stop that soul stacking that DOGZ have put so high in priority.
Okay, you see the first Dragon's Descent as Jim Cantori dives on top of Bondi, but does get to safety with a pretty big root. Cataclysm onto 2. Hero's Entrance is coming through on top as well, and there's no flash reveal for Hashiumi, but the damage just isn't there just yet. Another double root comes across for Bondi, but this Mel does not have enough of the chamber to commit to any of these kills, so everybody walks away pretty badly bruised.
Yep, both teams limping away. And it really felt like Hoshiumi was going to go down there. I mean, the Karma didn't have flash, but unfortunately the damage was not able to deliver. But crucially, and I would honestly say, in Dorado Gaming Zeta's favor, a lot of ultimates were burned in that exchange, right? No Cataclysm, no Hero's Entrance. That's on a super long cooldown. And the Dragon is going to be up in about 45 seconds. So Dorado Gaming Zeta will probably have an advantage going into this fight because those big team fight ultimates will not be up for LZM.
And LZM really need them because giving away Hextech Soul this early would give a huge win con over to Dorado Gaming, even if they are somewhat behind out of this early phase.
Yep. I mean, LZM, it's a question of what are they going to try and do. You can see they're trying to kind of force down this bot lane, get this turret, and kind of have Dorado Gaming Zeta respond to them, say, hey, come toward the bot lane so we can take the river, or at the very least fight you in the river, but they're not falling for it. Joker is able to clear out these waves. So the turret remains strong, and now the dragon is up. Arthur and Void both have teleport too. So this could very well be a party in the making, Slayer.
We're taking that big old piece of string cheese and stretching it as many different ways as we can at this point. Bondi's trying to get the bottom wave in for a turret. That won't work. So now LZM are going to reconsolidate towards this dragon pit, but They need to start it because Dorado Gaming Zeta is just matching all these plays so far and daring them to go for this dragon. It's really a war of arbitration right now, just waiting for somebody to misstep and overplay their hand. Maybe it's John using the rocket belt just to poke and prod, but he's got another mid-wave to answer, and we reset once again the same cycle around this Drake pit.
Yep, and there's vision by both sides around this river. Sweeper just coming back up here for NA Stallion, so he has the ability to sweep out some of it, but now it's a bit dangerous to walk in there. I mean, you don't have bot lane priority. Those bot lane waves not crashing means that Zeta can most likely move in there, right? They have taken control when the bot lane isn't in their, you know, kind of side of the map. And so it's going to be, like you said, a war of arbitration by both of these teams, just not wanting to pull the trigger, playing this super duper safely. And I really feel like it's on LZM to be the proactive playmakers here. They gotta barrel down on that bot lane turret, Slayer.
Dorado Gaming have allowed some of those key teamfight ultimates to come back around now. Cataclysm, Heroes Entrance, they're all available. So LZM, maybe that's what makes them feel a bit more comfortable to try and start this dragon. Hextech Drake, the slows and the AoE damage it does makes it somewhat annoying to take.
Oh boy, all right.
They've got
Void
all
is
5
bot lane.
members. Yep, here they go. Void teleporting across. Our first fight of the game.
They
This
got
could be
burn it.
playoffs for LZM. If they can find a big fight win like this, they're going for the
Arthur.
dragon. The switch is going to come across. Arthur's going to get caught with the World Ender completely down. Dragon is secured over by NA Stallion. He's going to throw all of them into the Cataclysm, but look at John fly out with the perfect execution. Picks up one.
Bondi's alive.
Nearly finds the second, but he's going to hunt him down. Bondi survives. Can Griffin get out too as well, though? Needs Brash to create some space for him. Brash is likely going to fall as the 5-point strike's going to come across. It's Griffin to try and find the trade, but Griffin's going to cost himself his own life. 4 kills back for Dorado Gaming Zeta, and they don't stop the dragon, but they get the fight win nonetheless.
They get the fight win, and they're going to reap the rewards of it. That bot lane turret not long for this world, and so they are going to get that feat as well. But still, the feats of strength elude both of these teams, I believe.
And the monster slaying. They got 6 grubs. They smited the dragon home for...
Or no, wait, LZM have it.
LZM have it, yeah. They got the dragon on the smite, and they got to 3 kills first, despite losing the fight as well. So they sneak away with that win as well to keep the game pretty darn even, Stokewax.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very close in Gold Slayer, and you know, really the big breadwinner for LZM, kind of the one that they're going to be relying on to carry this game, is that Mel 2-0-1. Bondi getting out with literally 1 HP, by the way, as Arthur might be in a bit of trouble.
All right, so they tried it with 2, and they were like, wow, that did nothing. So how about we try it with 3?
On the side.
And Arthur answers it by saying, yeah, still nothing, man. I'm not going to go down. Maybe the roots of the Caitlyn traps make me think twice. The Locket going to save him. And Arthur does actually end up having to burn the flash that we thought he'd have to lose minutes ago when he got ganked.
Yeah, I mean, Arthur surviving yet again. 2 times in a row, a member of LZM have lived on 1 HP. So many members of Dorado Gaming Zeta committed up to where this top side will open up Griffin to take that bot lane turret, but that turret on the top side taken. The Herald probably soon to follow. When you don't have that Hero's Entrance, it's so hard for Lane 0 Maelstrom to actually force a fight because you need that extra safety if you're going to engage.
And Griffin gets shut down trying to potentially hunt for that tier 2 turret. So I'll only get the turret trade and the Herald over towards Jim Cantore. As Dorado Gaming are starting to flex the same muscle they have in all of these series, which has really defined this matchup for me, Quacks, is their mid-game macro does just feel a bit more polished, and it's indicative of where these 2 teams are on the standings for me.
For sure. I feel like Dorado Gaming, Zeta have been really good at just rotating around the map, right? I mean, they get that top lane turret, they transition it into a Herald. It's all about taking, you know, one thing and then taking another thing right after, right? They're converting their kills into leads, and it feels like LZM haven't really had that opportunity so far in this game as Arthur.
We go for this again?
All right, 3 times the charm, surely, right?
Or does Arthur just win out and get a kill? I mean, the Shyvana does a ton of damage. He's got hero interest coming through. Arthur, he wants his friend to be a part of it this time. So you get the Dragon's Descent out of Jim Cantore, but that clutch Hero's Entrance you've talked about is once again going to be down for a fair bit of time. Arthur, though, wants to re-engage here onto Void without the World Ender. He's going to force the Ultimate Chicken out of Void. And like I've said too many times in this game, everybody walks away with no one dying.
Yep, no one going down. Top lane turret, potentially under threat here. I mean, when you have 6 grubs, you have to constantly keep that in the back of your mind. How quickly can they push this wave? How quickly can they take down that turret? Stallion and Brash are on this side of the map, accompanying Arthur, so they may look to set a trap, as Void does have that flash, but did use that ultimate.
Did indeed, Quacks. Otacon is in the voracious form for how slow of a game we've got, so I'm also once again bewildered that we're not all kind of just running towards top lane constantly. I mean, if it being ruinous in the last couple of games would maybe assuage some of these kill-hungry teams, but come on, a free revive and nobody really seems to care that much.
Yeah, a lot of people, a lot more care is being given over to these dragons, right? Next one coming up in about 40 seconds here, and you can see both teams kind of going around this area of the map. LCM, crucially, kind of the first ones, I feel, to the river, right? They don't have the Sion, they don't have that front line, and so Brash and NA Stallion doing a lot of good, just clearing out the vision from Dorado Gaming Zeta, and now it's going to be an NA ARAM, baby. Tale as old as time.
Yeah, which is interesting for the team that has 6 grubs. Lane Zero Maelstrom not leaning onto their side lane threat as much. They really just want to consolidate for this dragon. Good call out there from you, Quacks. Herald going to drop through. Shelly going to look to crack open this mid-tier 1 turret, or at least give lane control over to Dorado Gaming. Just the threat of it, but they still have a death brush to walk into. Jim Cantoro go first. There's the multiple taunts landing on into the knockups.
Griffin!
Fate sealed! None of the kills are coming across, though. Griffin didn't have enough juice in the tank, so Void just turns him back out, spits him, throwing him to the gray screen. They got the wombo combo, Quacks, and it just wasn't enough.
It wasn't enough, but maybe they could try and make use of it. Those Hextech gates are going to go do a lot of work in getting the members that were low back onto the map. But Jim Cantor, crucially, still around half HP. The Shyvana has to be careful about engaging onto this. This dragon might be a one-way trip, Slayer.
There's Jim Cantori going in, away before the taunt lands, grabs Hextech's dual point for the side of Dorado Gaming, and the Golden Eclipse coming across from Bondi does not do enough. Hero's entrance from Brash having to use defensive. Stallion has to fly out with the Flag and Drag as well. Nothing going right for Lane Zero Maelstrom with their season on the line.
And Lane Zero Maelstrom, they thought they had the angle. They thought they had the miracle team fight play. Griffin with the 5-man fate sealed. But nobody goes down. They don't even get the Dragon Slayer. Dragon Slayer, what do you know? But it's a tough spot to be in, because now you're staring down the barrel of a team that has 3 dragons. One more will give them soul. They've got the scaling in their pocket. The members that they want to get fed are fed. And LZM, they only have a Mel to show for it at this point, right? Bondi has remained relatively untouched over the past few minutes, but how long is that going to remain a thing once this big dragon power-up comes through from DOGZ if you're not able to continue your pressure on the spot side?
Yeah, Quacks, I think we're seeing why Mel has fallen out of favor in so many competitive aspects.
Old Mel would have killed that instantly.
Yeah, Old Mel would have gotten a pentakill right there. We're seeing Arthur going for a trade here into John, who already commits the full perfect execution combo. With Arthur more than healthy enough, it's just going to force John off. So Ultimate Chicken played in the side lane once more, and everybody chickens out of getting a kill, at the very least.
Yep. So few kills in this game. Both teams playing it super duper carefully, super duper safe. I mean, hell, if you want an indication as to how safe this game has been, not only can you see that there's 8 kills in, practically 26 minutes, but just look at how safe Jim Cantor was playing that last team fight, right? He was half HP, he was walking back and forth, he was shimmying around that river, making sure that he couldn't take any damage, and finally, literally at the picture-perfect time, gets that smite and allows his team that window further into the game to get that scaling. So it's a super close game, and really the big thing, Slayer, is just these objectives, right? Playing around these dragons, playing around these barons, and it would realistically only take one pick from either team to signal to the opposition, hey, let's go for this objective. And now there is no pick to be had. It's just an Otacon on the menu. John does not have teleport.
Lane Zero Maelstrom have marred themselves by over-aggressing a lot of spots in this series later on. Maybe they're trying it here, taking Opticon in the face of Void and allowing Dorado Gaming to all come up here. Opticon's doing a fair share of damage as Brash has to get out. Griffin with the Fate Seal trying to go forward onto Joker, but they're just going to burn through Opticon and get the revive. Jim Cantori nearly kills off Brash. Remember, he has a revive. They force the Dragon to send out Jim Cantori, who does not have flash. Fate Seal down. They're going to knock down the jungler for Dorado Gaming and make sure their support won't even fall. It's another big fight with only one kill found, but this time it's for Lane Zero Maelstrom.
Yep, LZM finally get a fight win here, and it is off the back of, I would say, a TP difference there, Slayer. Arthur was able to transition his way up toward that top lane, help out with that Otacon, and help out with the fight. John was in the bot lane, didn't have the teleport, and wasn't part of that exchange, so the numbers advantage comes up clutch when it matters. And now the million-dollar question, Slayer, is how are they going to use this revive? The Baron is up, and they are sparing no time going for it.
They have the revives. They know a reset is much quicker for them. LZM, with their season lives on the line, are willing to start gambling in this one, playing towards their strengths. But
Let's go gambling.
Their share of work, chunk them all down to about half HP. Brash is going to taunt a Void. The very tanky Silent doesn't seem to take damage. Jim Cantori is here, does have the Dragon's Descent, uses the Hex Portal though, when the Baron is far too low, so it's smited and secured away by Stallion. They have the revive buff, they have the Purple Worm. Can they find any kills on the exit? One withdrawal already channeled across as the rest of Dorado Gaming barrel into the pit, finding the kills they want. Big Golden Eclipse comes across to get Bondi a kill back, but it's just a ton of revives, and Baron's still available for LZM.
But crucially, they lose out Arthur. He did not have the revive attached to him, so the Aatrox will not be present for another 30 or so seconds, right around the time that this dragon is spawning, Slayer. So the rest of LZM, they will be able to react and respond. But DOGZ, they will have a 5-man advantage for just a little bit. If they can utilize that window and take this dragon, LZM, they might have to look for a 50-50. NA Stallion might have to be looking for a one-way trip into the pit to steal that objective. And he's got the flash, he's got the flag and drag, he's got the tools to do it. And now it's up and ready, and they are, Dorado Gaming Zeta, no hesitancy, rip it.
Jim Cantori has already stolen away one dragon to get to him to this point. Void's taken all the damage from LZM, but look how little it tickles him. I mean, he's
the Hex Gates.
He's not even below 80% HP. There's Jim Cantori.
Oh,
He's in a great distance. Griffin gets a big Fate Sealed. Jim Cantori is far too low. Can NA Stallion get the kill and commit to it? No! Jim Cantori lives, heals up off of the runes as well, and now they can try to turn attention back to the dragon. Arthur flies it. Escorts Jim Cantori. Both junglers are down. All bets are off, but Void, despite dropping, can help his team propel forward. But the roots are landing for Bondi. The two-man knockup for Griffin isn't going to be enough. No, it forces out the stasis, but Joker is kiting back to safety. Will he be able to find the kill? He gets out of the queue from Galio. Triple over to John, but Bondi, he's got more HP. He's being thrown by the dragon. The dragon is trying to pick up on the turret left off from game number 1. Bondi's trying to sneak his way out. Really reflects a Q back into the face of Joker, but it's John's time to step up. But he doesn't have vision onto Bondi. He doesn't want to commit.
Oh my God.
So at the point, the pinnacle of a climax for this game, we all just settle back down and reset with nobody getting the dragon.
No one's going to end up getting the soul. No one's going to end up denying the soul either. It's right back to square one. The respawns are coming in. Griffin is going to be the last one to come back up, and he's got the teleport. Both the teams, as if nothing just happened, right back onto the bot side river, right back onto the dragon. Ooh. We're going for round 2, Slayer.
This time, Joker gets to set up some traps maybe to get some value out of this 3-item Caitlyn, but like you called out, this one's going to get scrappier because there's so many ults off the board by this point. Jim Cantori going to get harried by NA Stallion, going to throw everything at this Shyvana. Ooh. Golden Eclipse gets the kill. Bondi goes godlike, but who's going to pick up the dragon? It has to be NA Stallion to secure it. Hextech Soul found. Griffin gets the angle onto Joker in the background, but Joker stays safe. Look at the huge Karma shields. Now Joker can step up and start free firing with this rifle. Bondi flashes out of the pit. NA Stallion flag and drags. Arthur has to dash over. They got the dragon, but boy, did it cost Lane Zero Maelstrom.
It's a heist of the century. LZM, they pay for it with 2 members, but they get Jim Cantor as well. I would definitely call that a worth it trade for Lane Zero Maelstrom. They also get a turret in the background, or rather a turret of theirs falls, I should say, in the background. This game certainly living up to the hype. Slayer 31 minutes in, 9-12 in kills, but that goal difference marginal at this point.
So close. And nothing really separating these teams. Even in these fights, everything is indicative of how close these two teams are. But it's important to remember, standings-wise, how different they are separated. Dorado Gaming Zeta are second, looking to play for the top seed with a win here with 1 week left. Lane 0 Maelstrom are still the team with so much more pressure on them. They need to win out to have a shot at playoffs. And you can see it through their team fighting, how chaotic and how just fun to watch it's been. Slobber Knocker, Sems, is a
understatement.
It's an onomatopoeia way to describe it.
Yep. And an understatement at that. This game has been scrappy for the last 5 to 10 minutes. Very, very different from what we saw in those first, I would say 25 or so minutes of the game, where it was very methodical, very slow paced. Now it is just devolved. Yeah. The team fighting has really kind of taken hold, and both teams preening at the bit to win out on those. Really, I feel like the big, thing that LZM have to start doing is they have to give Griffin, better protection. This Yone has landed some really insane fate seals, but has, either died right after, or speaking of death, Arthur just dropped.
Arthur finally dropped in the 2v1 against Jim Cantore and Void. It took all this time to get him. So they do find that pick, and that's going to slow down that split push, the 6 grubs that LZM really wanted to lean into. Now they've got to come off the top lane and respond to the bot lane push coming across.
Yeah.
But Quacks, as we look forward towards what will be kind of a season-defining fight for these two teams, what is the priority for both these squads? What's the focus if you want to get a win, or what could be their demise?
I mean, it seems like the scorelines tell a story here, Slayer, right? I mean, you've got the Akali 6-0-4 Joker with the Caitlyn 4-1-5 now, about to, I believe, get 4 items on the guy, or close to 4 items on the guy. And then on the other side, it's Bondi, right? The guy who has saved these team fights more times than I can count at this point. 7-0-1 on the Mel. But really, it feels like if you're LZM, you need another threat angle, right? You cannot be solely reliant on the Mel to deal that damage. And it feels like all the other options, Arthur, Griffin, they just get blown up, right? This Yone is too squishy. This Aatrox is too squishy. And as a result, even when they get into melee range, they just get popped instantly.
Oh boy, here we go though. Next fight's getting teed up on the launch box because this Baron's below 6k HP. Jim Cantore doesn't want to commit to a 50-50
All right, NA Stallion, he's going around.
They're just going to burn it. Jim Cantore does get it. NA Stallion does not get there in time. Baron picked up for all 5 members of Dorado Gaming. And now why do they need to fight? They have the big purple buff, so they just get out away with it. And all it cost them was 1 Shyvana ult.
And now they've really got to start running interference. LZM, they're on a timer to try and at least get one of these kills, right? Because that dragon coming up in about a minute, the Baron won't fall off by then. You've got to play for these lanes. And so I like this immediate reaction, immediate pivot into mid. Is hold on here, goes Void.
Full tank Scion with no fear in his heart wants Bondi. They recognize that this Mel has been the one stopping them from winning this game. Heroes Entrance comes across the
Stallion goes in, but he's alone.
Only holding the tanks in place. NA Stallion took a one-way trip on that Cataclysm. Golden Eclipse does nothing. Bondi falls flat. All of LZM falls flat, and it might just cost them not just Baron, but Hextech Soul as well.
And that could cost them the game as well if we're going to keep kind of cascading into the consequences of that throw. Slayer LZM, they've got the Baron. They've got plenty of time between when the Dragon spawns and when NA Stallion respawns, so they should be able to get this soul. It just feels like there is miscommunication coming through from LZM. NA Stallion wanting to go for the engage there, but the rest of LZM saying, no, we should disengage. We should save our strength for this dragon. And now there's no strength to show as you're down a member, crucially your jungler. And it looks like this soul might just be a foregone conclusion for Dorado Gaming Zeta.
They either got to fight here or give it up, and they're kind of undecided right now. Is Brash is getting heralded on one side, but Griffin tries to stop the Drake take. The Drake goes down all the same. Hextech Soul, Void going forward. God's flying in with the perfect execution. Is this the fight for Dorado Gaming Zeta to send LZM out of the Immortal League? They find their first kill, but their attention drifts back towards the mid lane, where structures are soon to fall.
Yup, they've got about half of a minion wave, but look at how tanky Void is. He's able to tank up so much damage from the turret, especially having that Karma in his back pocket to give him shields that are on around
He still has
a
his shield
3-second
up.
cooldown. Yeah, this is unbelievable. This is just how it works nowadays, Slayer. Welcome to 2025.
I thought we nerfed these tanks. Void is still proving why nothing has been nerfed.
No.
All we learned today is that nothing Riot nerf is going to work, and Lane Zero Maelstrom are going to fall at the finish line looking for playoffs. Their Nexus turrets are soon to fall. They've lost Brass, but they haven't lost Bondi, who's just trying to throw out spell after spell. Joker tries to focus on the Nexus turrets. First one going to go down.
Mouse?
Void channels the unstoppable onslaught to knock the second one through, but Joker's still hesitant to commit because Griffin's going to get the knockout. Do they get to the Caitlyn? No, Joker flashes out of it and turns his sights onto his foes. Lane Zero Maelstrom are going to fall flat at the finish line. Dorado Gaming Zeta just knocked them out of the Immortal League.
And Dorado Gaming Zeta showing why they are a top dog in Group A, why they are a team to be feared going into playoffs, as that is just around the corner. But unfortunately for LZM, the final hurdle, they aren't able to overcome that. They aren't able to jump over it. The reverse sweep from Dorado Gaming Zeta. Heartbreaking there, Slayer. Game number one, it was looking so promising. But that's just competition. That's just the Immortal League. You go against the best, and they show you why they are the best.
Certainly, Quacks. It has been a hard-fought road, but Dorado Gaming going down 0-1 and coming back in the series really shows that playoff poise that, Quacks, you eloquently pointed out at the top of the show, you expect from those Dorado Gaming rosters. You rarely see Dorado Gaming miss out on a playoffs in Tier 3 splits. And 5-1, I'm not a math guy on cast, but I'll say it. 5-1 out of 7 weeks, like,
yeah, that's good.
A playoff berth.
Yeah, you don't have to be a math guy.
Locked in. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't. No, they're good. Now LZM though, the opposite is true, right? I'm pretty sure they're mathematically locked out of this one, so I don't think that there is a possibility for them to make it. I think the gap is too big between the bottom two and everyone else. So again, it's heartbreaking. It really, really, really sucks because I mean, game number one, they looked really good, right? They utilized that choke gap. They were playing the map super duper well. Those rotations were amazing. So I really hope we get to see more of these guys going into the next season because they looked super promising, right? I think if they build upon what they had this split, they could be, a potentially really good team going into the next split. And I hope we get to see that, Slayer, you and I.
Yeah, it'd be fun to see, but for now, we have to bid adieu to Lane Zero Maelstrom. Team Coconuts, who had to face the top team in Group A, are very happy to see that the result makes sure that they stay in that fourth slot. They'll have a matchup next week to basically lock in that fourth spot, regardless of how their matchup against Summit Esports Wawas ends up going. But folks, that will bring a climactic end to week 6 of the Titan Immortal League. Big shout out to our awesome production crew behind the scenes, Golden on the Observing, and Wookie as our producer. Quack's always a pleasure to get next to you. Even if you're not wearing a suit for me, I'm just kidding. We went with the hoodie.
Never an option.
Wait, I didn't even see it said that. That's even better. But it was fun, my friend. Next week, you will have Ferris and Golden Gad taking you through to the end of the regular season.
Show them
so
some
myself
love.
and Quacks, make sure to show them love. We'll see you guys for playoffs the next time you see us on the Immortal League. But until then, make sure to tune into the qualifiers going on. Titan Esports is in it, by the way. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you soon.